Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and all sorts of good stuff. And coming down off of his cloud of euphoria from a James Bond trailer is one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, ladies and gentlemen. Robert, how you doing?
Oh, John, man, I got to tell you, that was like a welcome injection of the best kind of drug, the drug of the imagination. Wow, does that trailer look good? I am very, very excited. Globe-trotting, verisimilitude, no CG that's obvious. It looks delightful. I'm so excited.
Well, and we will get more into that in just a little bit here. And we do have a lot of things we're going to talk about, guys. You know what? Award season is kind of unofficially kicked off with the National Board of Review. They announced their award winners for this year. We're going to talk about those winners. Speaking of awards, the Academy Awards has released their list of 20 films that are going to be in the eligibility race for Best Visual Effects. We're going to run down those in just a little bit. There's more Planet of the Apes coming. Everybody, Disney is going to do more Planet of the Apes. That and The Star. The title star of the billion-dollar film Aladdin has not gotten one audition since the movie. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. But before we do, we got a couple of things to talk about off the top. And the first thing we're going to do off the top here, Rob, you were just telling me you've got a particular actor that you really, really love, that you gush about on this show all the time. And he is?
Richard E. Grant. Now, people might go, who is Richard E. Grant? Well, one of my favorite British comedies that's very British that not a lot of Americans know is a movie called With Nail and I. And he plays With Nail. With Nail is a guy. It's hilarious. And he's been he was in Robert Altman's The Player. He's been in Doctor Who. I mean, if you look up Richard E. Grant, his career is unbelievable. But he also plays a First Order officer. I guess it's General Pride in The Rise of Skywalker. And he went on Twitter last night. He saw The Rise of Skywalker.
Right, because John Boyega was mentioning that yesterday was going to be, 2 days ago, Boyega said that yesterday, Tuesday, was going to be the day that they actually, the cast and crew finally gets to watch the movie for the first time.
Now, watching Richard E. Grant, he was nominated for a Best Supporting Actor award for Can You Ever Forgive Me at the Academy Awards last year with the Melissa McCarthy film. Yeah. Loved it. I don't know if anyone told him about online embargoes or anything like that, because, he's an actor. But last night, he went on Twitter and made a video of himself responding. He's basically in tears, talking about seeing The Rise of Skywalker. Now, of course, he's in it. And he is such a force. Watching him on social media, and he is a delightful presence. But he was openly, practically weeping about how good he thought the movie was. He congratulated the cast and crew. He said he stood up and cheered and cried. And I mean, look, I know he's in the movie. However, this is the actual first, as far as I know, first reaction of somebody who's actually seen the film. Now, I thought that was pretty unusual. Maybe, I don't know if it's been pulled from social media now, but look, I respect Richard E. Grant. I've loved Richard E. Grant for 35 years as an actor, and seeing him respond this way, I'm just happy for him. Because I want to, first of all, I'm going to get an action figure from him or of him. It's going to be great. But man, he was very happy with what he saw.
Now, did he spoil anything?
No.
Okay, so he just was giving his
absolutely
reaction.
Spoiler-free. I was just curious. I mean, I would love to know if the Disney publicity department allowed that or they were taken aback. But he was, I just liked seeing him so emotionally moved by something that he was in. I was feeling his joy, and his joy gave me joy.
And it's always cool to see an Academy Award nominated actor doing that. Now, I would just let me echo what Rob just said. Take it with the grain of salt that this is a guy who is in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's take that with the grain of salt. But it's still always good. It's good to see a guy that happy about.
He was, you know what? If nothing else, just go watch his video. It's already been reported on the media. Just punch in Richard E. Grant Star Wars. You'll get a link to it, and you can watch it and feel the joy for yourself, because it will get you excited, John.
And look, I hate to be disclaimer boy here, but on top of the disclaimer of remember he's in the movie, other disclaimer, keep in mind that maybe he's being 100% legitimately honest and he loved the movie that much it brought him to tears. just because he loved the movie that much
Right.
doesn't mean you will, doesn't mean I will. So a couple of asterisks there, but still it's a positive thing. It's a positive thing to hear. I got to go. I still haven't watched this reaction myself. You came in here as like, do you see it? Because I know you're always talking. Rob is like Richard E. Grant all day, 24/7. And so he coming. Did you see what Richard E. Grant said?
He was in Hudson Hawk. He was one of the villains in Hudson Hawk.
Yes, he was. Anyway, guys, have any of you guys had a chance to see this particular reaction from Richard E. Grant? If so, what did you think of it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. One more little thing off the top here before we get to our main stuff. A new commercial dropped for some British thing. Bond. That's what it's called. That's right, Bond. Some little British thing called Bond. The new trailer for James Bond, the first trailer for James Bond, No Time to Die, has now hit online. Now look, I admit, I put this on Twitter earlier. I have been openly not anti this movie, not at all. I've been hopeful for the movie, but also a little skeptical. I've been a little skeptical about this movie. What the hell? This trailer is awesome. I'm not the biggest James Bond guy fan in the world. I've really loved a couple of the movies, as the couple of the recent movies and stuff like that, and I've got appreciation for the history of the films and all that kind of stuff. I'm as much of a Bond fan as anybody, but not like a hyper Bond fan like a Robert Meyer Burnett or many others. But this trailer, not only was it an absolutely fabulous trailer, filled with character, giving little glimpses about what the story is, and loads of action and excitement, some classic Bondisms with Bond. James Bond. Of course that's got to be in there. You should be put in jail if you don't put that in the trailer. And then a classic thing, he's in the car, sitting there calmly as people are riddling the car with bullets, flips a switch, headlights down, machine guns out, spinning around. It's like, what the hell? Oh my God. And the one line she goes, get in my way and I'll put a bullet in your knee. The one that works. Like, oh, that's awesome. This trailer is fantastic. Now, I don't know, Rob. Look, the movie might be absolute bunk. The movie might be terrible. Commercials and the actual movie themselves are often two very different things. But I'm telling you, giving us glimpses of Rami Malek, showing us Blofeld again, and when it does, it will be the death of you. I'm like, that's such a Bond villain thing to say. Rob, listen, I don't like to throw this word around hardly ever. For a first, catch all the qualifiers here, for a first trailer of a new James Bond movie, I think it was perfect. I think this is the perfect trailer as a first trailer to a new James Bond movie. This trailer is flawless. Absolutely flawless. I wish I felt this type of excitement when they put the Star Wars trailer out. But this trailer kicks copious amounts of ass. I love that. I've never been this excited for a Bond film before. Anyway, you saw it. You're the Bond guy. What did you think about it?
Well, first of all, one of the things I've loved about the Bond franchise my entire life is the globe-trotting nature. Obviously, we're seeing some incredible locations. You're up in Norway in the snow. You're in Italy. You're in high-tech facilities. It looks like somebody's got an underground lair somewhere. It ticked all of those great. You're in Jamaica. It ticked all of the great Bond boxes. You've got there's a big cast of characters in this movie. It's beautifully photographed. I mean, it might not be Roger Deakins shooting it. And somebody tweeted to me, holy Fukunaga, because Cary Fukunaga, who directed, I love True Detective, the first season of True Detective, and he directed all the episodes. He's on board for his first Bond film. I mean, this thing looks like it is powerhouse direction. Again, it's just a trailer, but it looks like Daniel Craig is having a blast. It looks like he's bringing the noise. He knows this is his last Bond film. It looks like they pulled out all the stops. And I'll tell you, juxtaposed, I always use the word verisimilitude. I like reality. And I really enjoyed the Black Widow trailer, but then you get to the end when there's this outlandish, we're jumping off of something that's falling out of the sky, and you've got that free fall sequence, which clearly
it's a chase scene through the sky. I dug it. To be
I
honest
thought it was
with
really
you.
cool, but it's clearly visual effects.
Yes.
It's clearly. And what I love about the Bond franchise, especially with the Daniel Craig movies, is it all's real. I mean, I know even the motorcycle jump was assisted with blue screen because there's that behind the scenes video, but still, it all looks real. It looks very authentic. It looks very much like real world stuff. And that's what I've liked about Bond at his finest, when the special effects and the seams aren't noticeable. And this movie just looks gorgeous, and it looks action packed, and Craig looks like he kicks ass in this movie, and the rest of the cast is great. Who doesn't want, this is why I go to the movies, man, and I am excited.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I'm surprised. Like, I expected a decent trailer. I'm surprised how much I like this trailer. I was very, very pumped for it. Guys, question is, what did you guys think of this new James Bond No Time to Die trailer? Did you think it was okay? Did you think it was as good as I thought it was? Where are your thoughts on it right now? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know what you guys think. All right. Hey guys, listen, before we get into the main topics today, I just wanted to plug this another time here. You know, we are approaching a landmark that I never thought this particular channel would do with the types of videos we do and everything, but we are approaching the 100 million views mark for the John Campea YouTube channel. And to commemorate, we're going to have a special event on Tuesday, December 17th. That's just a couple of weeks away right now. And it's going to be here in Burbank, California at the Victory Theater Center. If you guys want to come down, I'm going to be there. Robert Meyer Burnett's going to be there. Aaron Cummings, Chris Carr, Christian Harloff is going to be there. Anyway, we're going to be on stage telling some stories, taking Q&A. We're going to have an area where we can all meet and take some pictures together and stuff like that. Anyway, if you guys are interested in being in that and you're going to be in the Los Angeles area, I think we're down to the last 20 tickets. So anyway, you can see a link there, or you can go over to my Twitter and you'll see a link to it as well, where you can go and pick up tickets for yourself. And we look forward to meeting a bunch of you guys there. Okay, with that stuff down, let's move on to our main topics of the day. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Jack Murphy, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. The star of this year's live-action Aladdin, Mena Massoud, recently said he hasn't had any auditions or opportunity for any roles after Aladdin. The movie was a huge hit, and he was good in it. Why do you think he hasn't gotten any work?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And one of the, not the, but one of the best pleasant surprise movies of the year to me has been Aladdin. I think that movie is absolutely delightful. I was hoping it would be good, but I had some questions, but I was thoroughly entertained by it. Bought it the minute it came out on digital as well. I just really enjoy it. My wife is constantly singing the songs from it. And Mena Massoud is actually quite good in it. Is he as good as Will Smith is in the movie? No, I haven't seen Will Smith that good in a long time. Is he quite as good as Naomi Scott in it? Maybe not, because Naomi Scott was just lights out. So good in it. But I thought Mena Massoud was actually quite good in the role of Aladdin. Anyway, his movie became a billion-dollar film. The star, let me rephrase, the title star of a billion-dollar film. He just recently was doing an interview and he said the following. He said, "I want people to know that it's not always dandelions and roses when you're doing something like Aladdin. He must have made millions. He must be getting all these offers. It's none of those things. I haven't had a single audition since Aladdin came out. I'm sitting here being like, okay, Aladdin just hit $1 billion. Can I at least get an audition? Like, I'm not expecting you to be like, here's Batman, but can I just get in the room? Like, can you just give me a chance?"
He's a good Canadian kid too, John.
Mena Massoud. And listen, I got to admit, when I read that, first of all, I was hit with an instant pang of sadness. First of all, the kid is the star of $1 billion movie, and I'm sure that's great. So don't feel too bad for him. A lot of actors would kill to be in a position where they had $1 billion starring film and didn't get any auditions for a while. So many people would kill to be in that position. However, it is an intriguing thing And I chalk this up to maybe a couple of possibilities here about why this may be an issue. Number one, that the fact, while he is the title star of the movie, he was outshone, but then everybody was, by Will Smith in it. And people really do look at it as Will Smith's film. Naomi Scott was, like we said, was lights out in the movie. I thought she was wonderful in it. And so she outshone him a little bit as well, too. But he was quite good, but still, maybe he's just being outshone by some of his castmates. The second thing that comes to my mind is, while he, I thought his singing was very good in the film, but like in the musical number A Whole New World, he's singing the song first, as Aladdin does, and it sounds good. And then a little bit into the song, Jasmine starts singing, Naomi Scott. And when she starts singing, you start like, oh, wait a minute. Whew, that's what a real singer sounds like. And this is what an actor who's quite a good singer for an actor sounds like, but they are two different things. And so I don't know, maybe because there was a disparity in the singing range, it made some people whatever. The third thing is that while he is the star, the title star of a billion-dollar film, before this film, we have never heard the name Mena Massoud. I mean, he's been in a couple little things, but let's be honest, guys. You've never heard of him. And so maybe that had something to do with it. Now, I saved the last one for last, and I hate going here, but it would be ridiculous not to at least bring this up. So just buckle in. Here's the thing. When you have this title star of a billion-dollar film that then doesn't even get any auditions, I don't want to be the guy that but you'd be brain dead if you did not at least raise the question, could race be an issue? I mean, because if you were to ask anybody, hey, there's X movie, whatever X movie is, it's going to come out this year, it's going to star a brand new unknown kid, and that movie is going to surpass all expectations and make $1 billion at the box office. How many job offers do you think that kid, white kid, is going to get in the months after the $1 billion success? Well, he might not be the next Batman, but he's probably going to get a lot of opportunities. So I'm not saying, please be clear here, I'm not saying that race is the issue. I'm just saying you'd have to be completely brain dead to not at least ask the question. Because this is an oddity. This is an oddity. It's not odd for an actor. Just ask Erin Cummings, who's getting a lot of work right now, but she's gone through stretches where she's gotten none. It's not odd for an actor to go through stretches where they don't get anything, but an actor who is just the title star of a $1 billion film to not get anything, doesn't that at least make you scratch your head? And from all accounts, I mean, you hear Will Smith talk about this kid. Smith loves this kid. He says this is one of the most, all reports about anybody who's worked with him love this guy. Apparently, he is the easiest guy in the world to work with. He clearly did a pretty damn good job in this movie. And nothing? I mean, it's odd. Can we at least just admit that that's odd? Anyway, Rob, you hear this, and I don't want to pretend like there's only one explanation. No, there are many possible explanations. We've gone through some of them. Rob, when you see something like this, what maybe pops up to you as some of the bigger possibilities here about why something like this could happen?
Well, I think everything you said was good, but I think the real question when it comes to casting actors is you have to have multiple roles to judge them by. And this is a big, huge movie, but it's an anomaly. The $1 billion was an anomaly. So all casting directors have, there are casting directors. Their job is to cast movies. And great casting directors are always kind of thinking out of the box, like, what about this person? Or what about this person? It's a real art. The casting director, it's a job that is not spoken highly enough of, I think, in Hollywood these days, but they've always been very, very important to the business. And I just think that casting agents haven't seen enough of him. And unfortunately, even though you're in $1 billion movie, it's a very specific kind of a movie.
Yep.
And in terms of showing the kind of acting he can do, if you're in a movie like Aladdin, and then someone's making a spy thriller or an action movie or a romantic comedy, well, maybe there's a little bit of romantic comedy in Aladdin, but you wouldn't first go to somebody that we haven't seen that much from. And this movie Aladdin is still in the minds of, I think, a lot of people, a gimmicky movie. It's a remake of a Disney animated classic. So if you're looking for some great emotive thespian who you want to be able to bring an Academy Award caliber performance to your beautiful literary adaptation or your remake of Shakespeare's whatever, whether you're doing Titus Andronicus or Othello or Romeo and Juliet, he's probably not the first person that comes to mind. I'm sure people have talked about him, but what he needs that second film. He needs something else that's totally away from, and I don't mean Aladdin 2, electric boogaloo. He needs something totally different that shows his chops as an actor. And unfortunately, until he gets that, the industry is only going to see him one way. And hopefully he'll get that opportunity, because I know what it's like. A lot of this business is luck. And when you are an actor, unfortunately, you have to be perceived by the industry as something else. He's got to do a role that is diametrically opposed or different than what he did in Aladdin to show what he's got. Maybe an HBO series or something, and we'll see that. He's in a series called Reprisal, which I don't
Yes,
I don't
that
know.
was filming around the same time as Aladdin. So before Aladdin came out, yeah.
Yeah, and so hopefully he'll get another breakthrough role because of it. I would just say, look, man, give it time. You gotta play that game, but not getting an audition seems a little harsh.
Yes, I agree with everything you said. But we have seen many examples of somebody who played like a fourth level character in a movie that was a big hit. And all of a sudden, whoa, that guy's in this big movie. We got to get him in. You'd think auditions. Anyway, it is odd. So anyway, guys, what do you attribute something like this to? Maybe you just thought Mena Massoud sucked in the movie. Maybe that's how you felt. That's legit if that's how you feel. I thought it was actually pretty good. But what do you think about this? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us by Dafid Mark Moody, who writes, I was wondering if you saw that Disney is starting early development for a new Planet of the Apes film with the Maze Runner director. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on this, and have a great day. And yes, you're right. They have announced, what they're saying is the first, what do they call it? Legacy, the first legacy Fox property that Disney is now moving ahead and revitalizing. So they are moving ahead with this. What is not clear, and this was made really clear in the report that came out of the big trades, was that what they have no idea about right now is this a continuation from War of the Planet of the Apes? Or is this a reboot of the franchise? Is this a brand new Planet of the Apes? It's been a beat since the last Planet of the Apes movie. I'm going to be honest with you. War for the Planet of the Apes was my least favorite of those Apes movies. It really was. I had all the hype in the world. That was one of the grossest, deceptive marketing campaigns of all time. Almost half the stuff that they showed you in posters and trailers wasn't actually in the movie. And they made the movie out to look like, this is the movie we've been building up for. This is the movie that's going to have the war between the humans and the apes. And they show all these trailers making it look like there's going to be all these things. Even the poster with the riding of the horse, those scenes weren't in the movie. And the movie had nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. It was still a good movie. I still enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. Thumbs up for me. It's a good movie. But I preferred the other two vastly. Anyway, where do you go from there? Matt Reeves is, of course, working on his Batman, and he's taking his Caesar with him, as Andy Serkis is over there working on Batman as well. So what do we think, Rob, about them moving forward with Planet of the Apes? And do you think they'll actually make this something of a continuation? Or do you think they'll go in the direction of, we're just going to start Planet of the Apes over again? How do you see this going?
I think it's going to be a really interesting test for Disney, because I've loved the Planet of the Apes franchise since I was a kid. I love the first 5 original movies. I love the original animated series, and the Tim Burton movie I could not so much, but this new trilogy with Andy Serkis' Caesar, I loved. I think I might have actually loved the first movie the best, but I've loved all 3 of them. But I agree with you, War of the Planet of the Apes was not. It's probably my least favorite, but it's a pretty dark series. Planet of the Apes has always been dark. The original Beneath the Planet of the Apes ends with the world ending with an apocalyptic doomsday bomb being detonated by Charlton Heston in the final seconds of the film, and the voiceover at the end of the movie is, the planet Earth is now dead. And that's literally how the movie ends and the credits roll. So it's not like this is the most uplifting, necessarily family friendly, even though it was kid friendly because it's cool. Planet of the Apes. What's not? We liked it because of what it was. I hope it's a continuation of what they've done, or if it's not, they're going to examine the same kinds of themes. But I just don't see Disney. It's an interesting choice. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it, because how they handle this franchise is going to give us a little bit of a signpost with what they might do with Alien, what they might do with Predator. I mean, what are they going to do? Obviously, these films make money and people love them. I think it's a good choice in terms of a legacy property to develop. But the choice of director was sort of interesting to me.
Well, Wes Ball. They went ahead and got Wes Ball. Now, if you don't recognize the name Wes Ball, that's understandable. The only really thing he did Cirque du Freak.
Right.
Which I didn't hate.
No.
But then he did this kind of YA, kind of Hunger Games style book with Maze Runner. But I remember that first Maze Runner.
Yeah.
Surprised a lot of us because it was much better than we all thought it was going to be, you know? Now, the second and the third ones weren't so great, but you know, at one point you gotta go, look, you're working from questionable source material to begin with. He made the first one great. So, you know what's really interesting though, is that Wes Ball, I'm trying to remember the name of the project, but as the Disney takeover as Fox was happening, do you remember that Fox was developing that kind of mouse Braveheart?
Yeah, Mouse Guard.
Mouse Guard. So they were working on Mouse Guard, which looked incredible.
Well, the graphic novel stuff is amazing.
Yeah, and then remember they put out the little animatic thing of it as well, which I thought, my God, I would watch this. But it was one of the first casualties of the Disney takeover.
Yeah.
And Disney killed the project. That's what Wes Ball was working on. Apparently, Disney must have liked enough of what he was doing on Mouse Guard to go, you know what, let's give you a shot on this. Now, so I know there are going to be some people that get a little bit of a like, wait, the guy who did Maze Runner's doing play. I think there might be something here. And I think this is an interesting choice. So let's see how this guy does. I personally think it's going to be a continuation.
Yeah.
And the main reason I think it's going to be a continuation, and I have no insider information, by the way, it could very well be a reboot. But the reason I think it's going to be a continuation is I think it's too soon for a reboot. I think it's too early to reboot the franchise at this point. So that's just my guess. Could be told. I wouldn't put any money on that.
You know, I also think, too, that with the technology they've developed with Jungle Book and now with Lion King, makes it really desirable to make another Planet of the Apes movie because they can translate over and use that technology that they've been refining.
Not that it didn't already look absolutely fantastic.
Oh, amazing.
Of course it did. So question here is, guys, how do you feel about this? What do you think about them picking back up with the Planet of the Apes franchise? I'll be honest, I was a little bit skeptical that they would. So what do you think about them doing this? What do you think about the selection of the director? Do you think it'll be a continuation? Do you think it'll be a reboot? How do you guys feel about it? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Chuck Mills, who writes, "Hey guys, Variety just put up a list of the 20 finalists for the Best Visual Effects Oscar this year. Some obvious ones like Star Wars and Avengers, but also some unexpected ones like Ford v Ferrari and Ad Astra. What do you think of the list, and which films will get the final 5 spots?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Chuck. And yes, Chuck is absolutely right. The Academy, the branch of the Academy that looks after the visual effects category, has released the final list of 20 films that are going to be their 20 films that they consider for the big award, for the Best Visual Effects Award. So let's take a look at what some of those are. We're going to start here with this. Ad Astra, The Aeronauts. By the way, Ad Astra is a movie that I really disliked, but the visual effects are stunning.
Yeah.
And by the way, don't forget, remember what won Best Visual Effects the other year? The Ryan Gosling Mission to the Moon. Why am I forgetting where he played the first guy to walk on the moon? Why am I First Man. First Man. So remember that caught a lot of people by surprise, but it was those sorts of visual effects that so seamlessly felt utterly real. Verisimilitude. It felt so seamlessly real. The visual effects artist nominated as top 5, and it ended up winning the thing. Anyway, we got The Aeronauts coming. Aladdin, which I think have some wonderful, fun visual effects, but I can't see it being a whatever. Alita Battle Angel had some terrific visual effects. Obviously, one of the front runners would be Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel. Cats. Don't laugh, man. I'm going to predict right now, I think Cats is going to get one of those final 5 spots. Just from what I've seen in the trailers, understanding that those aren't costumes they're wearing, that's all CGI. Could be one of them. Dumbo, I don't see getting that. Fast and the Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. But you know what? I giggled when I first read that. And then I thought about it. It's like, a lot of that movie is visual effects.
Yeah.
And some of it is done pretty seamlessly. So I don't expect it to be in the final 5, but my shock of it being in the final 20 is gone. Because the more I thought about it, I can see that. Then speaking of cars and racing, Ford v Ferrari, same thing. It's just the visual effects were so seamless, they just smoothed right into the movie. Then we move on to Gemini Man, which, look, you knew Gemini Man was going to... I don't think it'll get one of the final 5 spots, but you knew it had to be in this list here. Much like Gemini Man, for the same reasons, Irishman with the digital makeup effects. I don't think digital makeup effects is going to be enough to get the final 5 nomination, but you never know. Jumanji: The Next Level, obviously Lion King. That movie was so freaking photorealistic that people to this day still think it's a live action movie. So I believe that'll get in the final 5. I do. Men in Black International, not a great movie, but not bad visual effects. Midway. Getting into some war movies, Midway in 1917, Spider-Man: Far From Home. One of the other frontrunners, of course, will be Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and Terminator: Dark Fate, which also not bad visual effects. Rob, as you go down through these lists and you start seeing lists, what are the ones that stand out to you that think have a real shot here at getting one of those coveted 5 best visual effects Academy Award nominations?
Well, I think you're pointing out a lot of obvious choices. I mean, it's going back to First Man. Visual effects are coming to the point where you're creating seamless. You can't tell where the fantasy begins and the reality ends, and I think that's what you want from visual effects. So I think the more obvious things, if we like we've been seeing Star Wars visual effects now for 42 years. Star Wars has always been at the forefront, even the motion control cameras, the Dijkstraflex camera that was invented for the first Star Wars movie. So obviously it's going to get in there, but I don't know if it'll make the final 5. I see things like you're pointing out, Ford v Ferrari getting in there, Lion King probably. I wouldn't bet. I wouldn't be surprised if The Irishman was in there because that's new technology that they've refined, and I just think that we're moving into a different realm. We think visual effects is monsters or spaceships or laser guns or whatever, but really, what visual effects are at their best is they make you believe. They make you believe in the fantasy. They make you believe in the reality. Ford v Ferrari. I mean, I was reading an article about the effects. They've done some incredible things. The photorealistic work and the car crashes and things that they did in that movie, amazing. But what we used to think about I think Avengers Endgame, because of the Thanos character, they've refined a CG character and made him absolutely, totally believable, totally photorealistic, a purple guy, and he's doing more. He's going into battle. He's emoting. The fact that you can get emotional when Thanos is having a conversation with one of his daughters that you believe, that's great visual effects work.
And scale. I mean, just pure scale of the visual effects.
Absolutely. And I think Alita Battle Angel has a chance because a lot of that film, it has a lot of visual effects in it, a lot of interesting stuff that they attempted with people being turned into mechanized creatures. So you've got a real person's face on a mechanized body throughout the entire film. So I don't know what the top 5 are going to be, but I lean more toward the less obvious choices that we've seen in the past because visual effects technology is changing.
All right. So here's the 5 that I think it's going to be. And I may change my mind, but as we get closer to the actual nominee, I reserve the right to change my mind, all right? The 5 I think it's going to be are, I'm going to go with the first 2 obvious ones. This is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker and Avengers Endgame. I believe are going to get spots. I believe Lion King has to get a spot. Whether you liked or hated Lion King, when everybody's still wondering, is this whole thing real?
It's astonishing.
I mean, you got to consider that in there. Because of First Man... So that's 3 right there. Because of First Man, I'm going to throw in Ad Astra. I think because when you look at that, as much as I didn't really appreciate the movie, the film you believed every environment. Everything that was happening, you completely believed it. And again, maybe I wouldn't have put it in the top 5, but because they went First Man and gave it the win last year, I think that could be one of the possibilities. So there's that. as far as the 5th spot, I'm not going to go Irishman because I actually thought Gemini Man did that better than the Irishman did. And there is actually a few moments. Look, it's amazing, the effects of the de-aging. There are a few moments in Irishman. It's like, Robert De Niro's eyes just change color. And sometimes it doesn't look quite great on that level. It's that 5th spot for me that right now I'm locked up a little bit in. I don't think it's going to be Terminator. I don't think it's going to be Spider-Man Far From Home. I don't think it's going to be Captain Marvel. I don't think it's going to be Irishman or Gemini Man. You know what? I'm going to go Cats. Cats is going to round it out. I just think that, first of all, it's a celebrated property. But really, as weird and creepy and off-putting as the trailer have been, my God, the visual effects are crazy. Because you would think those are just people in costume.
And they've never, that's where visual effects excelled. It's never been done before.
Not and like it's never been done before.
And remember, after the first trailer dropped, like with Sonic the Hedgehog, they went in and refined the look. And so that second trailer showed you how much better these characters were looking. And they've done some astonishing stuff in there.
All right, question is, guys, you see this list. What do you think are going to be the Remember, the best visual effects, a lot of people confuse this, is not your favorite movie. It has nothing to do with whether you think the movie is good or not. That should not be a part of your consideration whatsoever. Which 5 movies do you think did the best job with their visual effects and you think should get one of those 5 spots, those 5 nomination spots when the Academy Award nominations come out? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know what you think. All right. With that down, let's move on to our 4th main topic today. And our 4th main topic today gets submitted to us by Isaiah Washington, who writes, "Hey, John, I hope you're having a great morning. I certainly am. Last year, they awarded Green Book at the National Board of Review for Best Picture, and it deserved it, by the way. And recently, they awarded The Irishman. I thought this was a deserved win. Have you seen the film? If so, what do you think of the film's Oscar chances, including Best Picture?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And unofficially, I mean, there has already been the Gotham Awards and some other things, but unofficially, completely unofficially, the National Board of Review Awards are kind of the unofficial kickoff to the awards season in many ways. And while not always in line with what the Oscars do, there's been a history of there being a lot of reflection between what gets awarded at the National Board of Review versus the Oscars, including, you just mentioned, of course, the Green Book won Best Picture there, and then it went, by the way, Green Book won a lot of Best Picture awards, which is, by the way, side note, I don't understand a bunch of people who whined and bitched and moaned and complained about Green Book winning Best Picture when it was winning all these Best Picture awards at a ton of these other awards ceremonies before. It's like, what? Green Book won? How? It was winning all the awards already. Anyway, side note. That aside, and of course, then it went on to win the Oscar. They just announced the winners for this year's award. And at the top is a movie that I do not think deserves Best Picture, but it's a damn good movie nonetheless, and that is The Irishman. So Irishman did take, and that is significant because, again, Green Book was nominated there, was won at the NBR, and then went on to win at the Academy Awards. Again, it's not always that way, but it's significant. Let's take a look at some of the other winners, and then, Rob, I want to talk about what stands out to you. So Best Film by the National Board of Review was given to The Irishman. Best Director was Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood. Best Actor, Adam Sandler for Uncut Gems. We know he's been getting some Oscar buzz. Best Actress, no surprise, Renee Zellweger for Judy. Best Supporting Actor went to Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Supporting Actress, this one was a little bit of a surprise for me because I didn't know that Kathy Bates was really high in the running for this, but Kathy Bates for the upcoming movie Richard Jewell. Best Original Screenplay, the Safdie brothers and Ronald Bronstein for Uncut Gems. Of course, they did that great job on Robert Pattinson's film as well. Best Adapted Screenplay, Steven Zalian for The Irishman. Of course, it was adapted from the novel, from the book, You Paint Houses. I heard You Paint Houses. Breakthrough Performance, Paul Walter Hauser from Richard Jewell, I should say. Best Directorial Debut, I disagree with this one. Melina Matsoukas for Queen and Slim, who did a wonderful job directing that. I really thought it should have gone to Olivia Wilde for Booksmart. I really do. But hey, not taking anything away from Melina, because she made a damn fine movie, and I enjoyed Queen and Slim very much. Best Animated Feature. Little bit of a surprise here. How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. I'm not going to lie, little bit of a surprise. I really expected to see, Toy Story 4 or what have you. But listen, How to Train Your Dragon 3 was a very, very good movie.
Great franchise.
Best foreign language film. Listen, if you want to talk about the easiest lock of locks of any category of the award season at all, you were given $1 million by a Crossroads demon and says you can put this $1 million on any one bet. The bet you put down on every award show from here until the Oscars are done is you put on best foreign language film as Parasite. That's just a given. It's going to be a big contender for best picture overall, but this is the biggest lock of locks category. So no surprise there. It went to Parasite. A couple more. Best documentary went to Maiden. Best ensemble, which is really funny. And I'll mention this. Best ensemble went to Knives Out. Outstanding achievement in cinematography. Surprise, surprise, Roger Deakins for 1917. It's really funny because I just answered yesterday. Somebody sent in one of the $50 questions that I make their own individual videos for, and was asking, what do you think are going to be the big films going into SAG for Best Ensemble Award? That's kind of the top prize at SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. And I said, I think the two big frontrunners are going to be The Irishman and Knives Out, and I think Knives Out is my pick. And then I look at the National Board of Review thing afterwards, like, oh, look, Knives Out won Best Ensemble. Rob, as you're looking at a list like this, and you're seeing it, what are the no-does to you? And what are maybe one or two of the surprises for you that stands out to you there?
Well, I've been saying, I said sight unseen that I thought Irishman was going to win Best Picture. So
yes, you did.
I think Steve Zalian, for his adapted screenplay, is pretty much a lock. I think, like you said, Parasite is pretty much a lock for best foreign film. The best actor, Adam Sandler thing, I haven't seen Uncut Gems, but I'm surprised that talk with Adam Sandler from the very beginning when the movie first started getting shown, they've been talking about Adam Sandler's performance. And look, he looks bananas good from the trailer. I haven't seen the movie, but that looks like it's pretty strong. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Quentin Tarantino. If Martin Scorsese doesn't win the Academy Award, I think you're right. I think Quentin Tarantino is going to take that. The National Board of Review. People love this movie. I mean, to be honest, John, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is not top tier Tarantino for me.
I agree.
And I think I enjoy it, but it's kind of this meandering, indulgent movie. I could watch it for 4 hours, but I don't know if it's going to win. Kathy Bates, Richard Jewell. There's something about Clint Eastwood movies. I really like The Mule. Are they the best movies in the world?
It wasn't his best movie.
No, but I really enjoy watching it. I'm always absorbed because his movies are so about character, and he's a master. The dude is like, I think he is actually 90 years old. Clint Eastwood's like 90 years old.
I think he might be 91 or 92.
I mean, it's unbelievable that he's directing films. And Richard Jewell looks to be great. I can't wait to see it. I love me some Kathy Bates. I'll watch Kathy Bates in pretty much anything she's in. I'm her number one fan. See what I did there?
Yes, I did.
I think that, like you, I was surprised Olivia Wilde. I haven't seen Queen and Slim yet, but I think when you have a movie like Queen and Slim or Booksmart, I think the actual movie itself, the subject matter is always going to be, it's always going to sway critics one way or another. And Queen and Slim is just a more important film, I think, than Booksmart, at least in terms of the culture now. But I think all these look pretty good. I mean, these are all very respectable, and I can see the Oscar race going in a very similar direction to these awards.
And by the way, a point of order: Clint Eastwood will turn 90 years old in about 3 or 4 months.
That's when he turns insanity.
And he's still rocking it. He's still rocking it. By the way, guys, side note: if you've never seen Mystic River, well, actually, I mean, look, I think his best film is everybody in agreement? It's Unforgiven.
Oh,
that's as far as being a director and his directorial is that. But that the boxing movie that won all the awards,
$1 Million Baby.
$1 Million Baby. I just knew Baby something. $1 Million Baby, Mystic River. Like you get caught up on Clint Eastwood's directorial catalog if you have not. So some really interesting stuff there. Anyway, guys, question for you is, what do you think about the results of the National Board of Review? Do you think they're going to be really reflected in the Oscars? Do you think it's going to be a lot of differences? A lot of tight races in a lot of categories. The only one that I think is a big lock, like I said, is Parasite for Best Foreign Language Film. At any rate, what do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Rhonda, who simply writes, TV Line is reporting that The Mandalorian Episode 7 will be premiering 2 days early on Wednesday instead of that Friday, which I thought we knew already. We did. Instead of the Friday, it's going to be on the Wednesday that week. But it will include an Episode 9 sneak peek. Could this be a new trend for Disney Plus, adding sneak peeks to their service and such? All right, so for those of you who don't quite know what Ron is talking about, so the 7th episode of Mandalorian, they launched on a Tuesday, but every episode has been on a Friday since. And they will be, except for that week. That week, we're getting it on a Wednesday. And the reason we're getting on a Wednesday is because it's the day before Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker comes out, and they're attaching to it this big thing of this. Now, one of the things that came up yesterday, Rob, on that Christian Harloff and I talked about on Dark Side, Light Side, was there's been a lot of people wondering if there's going to be a direct connection between Mandalorian and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. And you'd be forgiven for wondering that because of two things. One, they are, of course, in the same cinematic universe. Number two, the timing of when Mandalorian is in relation to when Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is coming out. So you'd be forgiven for that. However, both Christian and I feel like there will be no direct connection. There's too much time difference between them. Plus, Lucasfilm and Disney are not going to make movie-going audiences reliant on having Disney Plus and watching The Mandalorian show in order to understand something key and important that's going on in the movie. They're not going to do that. So I don't think we're going to see teenage Yoda, a teenage, now a slightly grown-up baby Yoda, whatever we call the race. I still haven't given the race a name. I don't think we're going to see that. So no, I don't think it's going to be there. But Disney also ain't fools. They're going to use the momentum of Mandalorian to roll right into Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, which a lot of us looked at it first a number of months ago when we saw the timing of the episodes and going, oh, that's interesting. It could end up being one of the best marketing moves ever done. Now, not that The Mandalorian is nothing but an advertisement for Rise of Skywalker. It's a very, very different show, but having the timing of this like this, pretty good idea. And now they're attaching this big thing. Rob, what do you think about this move on their part? And considering now it's going to be the day before The Rise of Skywalker opens, how significant and how big do you think this sneak peek of Episode 9 is actually going to be attached to this episode of The Mandalorian?
Well, I mean, first of all, why wouldn't they do this? What a great opportunity. Everybody loves The Mandalorian. People are watching it. Of course, they're going to have a sneak peek for Rise of Skywalker. I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a combination of behind the scenes, maybe some new clips or something. But I don't necessarily think it's going to become de rigueur, regular thing with Disney. This is a special occasion. You know, this is like they're giving us 7 weeks of Star Wars with 8 episodes of The Mandalorian and Rise of Skywalker. So it's an event. And I appreciate it. I think it's great that they're doing that. I think it's pretty awesome. And come on, dude. You know Rise of Skywalker is going to end with Rey on the verge of defeat by Palpatine, and she's going to like snap her fingers, and little Yoda's going to float in on that thing, and he's going to come and just with his lightsaber. It's going to be just like the battle in the Senate in Revenge of the Sith when Yoda was taking on.
By the way, have you seen the video on YouTube?
Oh yeah,
somebody took that man took out Yoda and put in Baby Yoda in the crib fighting the Emperor.
Oh yeah, I mean it's pretty dope. But not. By the way, I don't really think that's going to happen, people. I don't think that's really going to happen. I don't think there is a direct connection because, like you said, there's too much time that's passed. And look, not everything, contrary to what they've tried to make you believe for the last 30 years, not everything in the Star Wars universe is connected to everything else. You know, I mean, there's stuff happening all around the galaxy and all the time. But I do think that, hey, they've got a Star Wars TV show running on Disney Plus that's their showpiece. Why wouldn't they promote Rise of Skywalker? They want you to have a Star Wars weekend. Binge The Mandalorian after you've seen Rise of Skywalker, and then once you've binged The Mandalorian, you want to go see Rise of Skywalker again. So I think it's a sound strategy. I got to tell you, John, I'm kind of Star Wars excited again. I'm like, you know what? After watching my man Richard E. Grant, and I'm like, we got a $250 million plus Star Wars movie coming down the pike. You have to be dead inside. I don't care what you thought of Rise of Skywalker. I mean, after living through the prequels,
you're not a big fan of the Rise of Skywalker.
I mean,
or
Last
the Last
Jedi.
Jedi. I mean, you're not a big fan of the Last Jedi.
I'm a bigger fan of Last Jedi than a lot of people are. There's things in Last Jedi. I think the most ballsy Jedi move ever is Luke showing up at that final battle and not actually really being there.
Oh, I thought it was great.
That's the ultimate example.
But you didn't like JJ's other Star Wars. You didn't like The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. But you know what? It doesn't matter because I look at here's my philosophy of life. Movies are really hard to make. I want every movie to be great. I go into every single movie I see wanting it to be great. I am the movies to lose. And until I see Rise of Skywalker, I know those characters aren't near and dear to me, but it's a Star Wars movie in the Star Wars universe. I love the Star Wars iconography. I want to hear John Williams' score. It looks like it's beautifully shot. And if it's surprisingly good, then I'll be like, hey, I want to walk away from that movie going, that was pretty good. I'm going to go pre-order that Ray Hot toy.
Of course you are. You and John Williams. By the way, we haven't talked enough about that this is going to be John Williams' last hurrah in the Star Wars universe. But give them, the man's earned his retirement, dude.
Him and Clint Eastwood could hang out together.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. He's a baller. He is a baller. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this whole marketing move on their part? You like it? Do you don't like it? Do you think it's going to be effective? Do you think it won't be effective? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we are now going to take a little bit of just going to take a break for a couple of minutes here, guys. Stretch the legs, rest the vocal cords, refill our drinks. So if you will indulge us for just a couple of minutes and hang in tight, we're going to come right back and start getting to your comments and questions that you guys have been firing in. And by the way, you still can either by using the super chat feature on YouTube, or if you look in the top line of the description below, the very first thing at the top there is a link to a tip page. You can use that. It sends in a question and supports the channel at the same time. Anyway, guys, if you will hang tight with us, we will be right back. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes. All right, and we are back. Thank you guys for your indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. But now let's get right into the live questions that you guys have been sending in. And we're going to jump over there and get started off with Mark J. Beelzebub, who writes, favorite Christmas movies in no particular order, because we are now in the season, Rob. It's December. It's officially okay to start talking about Christmas. The Santa Claus, Christmas Story, I love Christmas Story, Die Hard, Home Alone, Better Off Dead. By the way, Die Hard is instantly disqualified. It is not a Christmas movie. Home Alone, Better Off Dead, Gremlins, Trading Places, Miracle on 34th Street, the 1947 version, Muppet Christmas Carol, nice, Scrooged, Elf, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Nice list. I mean, any list for me, Rob, has got to include It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. I mean that's always going to be the top of my mind. That's you got a favorite Christmas movie?
Well, I'm a big Love Actually fan, to be honest.
Really? I like Love Actually.
I'm a sucker for Love Actually, but yeah, I agree. It's a Wonderful Life. And you know what people forget? Lethal Weapon. The first Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie. It even begins with Jingle Bell Rock. It's the opening music.
We are going to one of these days have a serious 20-minute. We're going to sit down
and Frankenheimer's reindeer
with
games,
points and everything, and we're gonna debate what constitutes a Christmas movie. We're gonna talk about that one of these days, Rob. All right. Next up here, John S. writes, I'm curious if you saw the 2017 movie Birth of the Dragon. I did, but nobody else did, which was inspired by the closed-door fight between Bruce Lee and Wong Jack-man. Of course, they take a little bit of liberties with that, but for what it is, an homage to this movie and the style of his movies, I really enjoyed it, but it did horrible in theaters. Oh yeah, they didn't know how to market this thing. They simply had no idea how, and I don't blame them. It's not like I thought it was a horrible marketing campaign. It's just like, how do you make this sound appealing to a wide general audience? And they weren't able to do it. And I'll be frank with you, I don't know if I would have been able to do any better of a job. It was kind of enjoyable for what it was. I kind of got a little bit of a kick out. Did you have a chance to see it, Rob?
I did.
What did you think about it?
You know, I kind of liked it too. Like, remember Rob Cohen's movie Dragon, the Bruce Lee story? Yes. I like that too. I mean, I grew up with Bruce Lee's movies, and the character, I'm fascinated by his character, and so I enjoyed it.
All right, next up here, we've got Willow, who writes, how many people named Tony... Of course, this is an Irishman reference. How many people named Tony do you know? Is it really that popular amongst Italians? I have no Tonys. Well, no, I take that back. I have one Uncle Tony, actually. I do have one Uncle Tony. He's by marriage, of course, Italian. And growing up in, Hamilton has a huge Italian community. I honestly didn't know many Anthonys or Tonys. Not many. But, I mean, I get what the joke. So in the Irishman, this is a joke. It says, aren't you all named Tony? Isn't everybody named Tony? There's a lot of Italians named Tony or Anthony. It's true. But honestly, in my immediate family, I think I had one uncle. And it was like a second uncle sort of thing. And I think I knew one in school. So my experience was a little bit more limited than that. All right, Jay Bling writes, the National Board of Review Awards have shown to be a strong early indicator for Oscar nominations. Adam Sandler just won Best Actor for Uncut Gems. As a diehard Sandler fan who hates his new comedies, this makes me very happy. Listen, I've been saying for years, especially ever since he did Reign Over Me, which is an Adam Sandler movie nobody's seen and you need to see, is the best performance of his career, and I actually argued he should have gotten an Academy Award nomination. I don't know that he's going to win an Academy Award for Uncut Gems. But what his nomination here does for me, Rob, or what his win here for me, I think indicates he will get at least one of those 5 nomination spots. And that's no small feat this year because it's packed. Do you see him getting one of those nominations? I haven't seen the movie yet, but if he's winning here, I got to believe he's going to get a nomination.
Again, I mean, from what people are saying, that he throws himself into this incredible, manic, crazy performance. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I love it when an actor unleashes like that. And I think, for Adam Sandler, when comedians do serious stuff, like when Robin Williams was in World According to Garp or Good Morning Vietnam, I think we get something really special. And I'm curious to see what this is. I have seen Reign Over Me, and Adam Sandler did prove his dramatic chops. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see when he's given a real character to play like this. I can't wait to see it. I think he might win.
Yeah, I don't know that he'll win, but I think he will get one of those nomination spots. And that's,
sure.
Again, that's no small feat. All right, Tyler L. writes, over under 20%, Brad Pitt gets a Best Actor nomination for Ad Astra. I personally really enjoyed the film, but I know a lot of other people didn't. And again, it really shouldn't be about whether you overall like the movie. It's really about more the performance. Zero chance Brad Pitt gets a Best Actor nomination for Ad Astra. Absolute zero. Nobody in SAG, nobody in the Academy, nobody in all the awards trackers are even considering Brad Pitt really for Ad Astra. And the thing is just too packed. And listen, Brad Pitt isn't bad in Ad Astra at all, but there really wasn't a lot for him to do. All of his dialogue was like this. He wasn't given much to do. Now, Brad Pitt possibly winning the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor because of his role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, another movie I'm not thrilled with. I liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I didn't think it was great at all, but his performance was crazy good in it. Rob, do you see any? I think you liked Ad Astra more than I did.
I don't know, man. I kind of felt it was. I was disappointed ultimately.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I was disappointed by it.
Do you think there's any chance he could get a Best Actor nomination for it?
No.
No. Yeah, I don't either at that point. Okay. Next up, Anonymous writes in. If it was possible to have one director who has died come back and make one movie with today's cast and technology, who would you pick? For me, it would be Stanley Kubrick. With the technological advancements, I think he would make something unique and amazing.
I am right there with him because he's my favorite director.
That's not a bad pick at all, because you're right, he would. But I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction. When you look at what this artist was able to do in terms of creating atmosphere and mood and all that kind of stuff without the aid of visual effects as a tool in his belt. What this dude could do today, I would die to see, and that's Alfred Hitchcock. I would you give Alfred Hitchcock a thriller horror kind of thing and say, by the way, you have unlimited visual resources at your disposal now.
CGI.
Ooh, I would love to see what he could, like a true storyteller. And with those types of tools, so I love the Kubrick pick. I go Hitchcock. I mean, we couldn't go with two more stereotypical names to bring up, but it's true. These would be the picks.
You know, I'm going to go way back too, if I could throw another one out there. Fritz Lang, who made Metropolis, which is the first great epic science fiction movie. You know, he mostly worked, he worked later in sound films, but he started out in silent films. What he might do could be amazing.
All right, good question, Anonymous. All right, next up, Russell Amador writes, Hey, John. Robert Pattinson has made it clear in several interviews that he doesn't believe Batman to be a superhero. What's your stance on this? By the way, can I just say, first of all, thanks for bringing this up, Russell. Can I just say, I cannot believe how much people have made out of this. This is such nonsense. Here's what he said. How could you say Batman's not a hero? Robert Pattinson made a statement that is quite frankly a statement I have wondered about myself. Do we qualify people without superpowers as superheroes? As one person used to say to me, that dude's not a superhero. He's a hero, but he's not a superhero. He has no superpowers. Hence superhero. Now, a lot of debates. I would make an argument that Batman is a superhero. But I also totally see the discussion on the other end. It's like, well, no, a regular human being can be a hero, a real hero, not necessarily a superhero, which is designated for guys. So, I mean, it all depends. The bottom line is it doesn't matter. I mean, I saw so many people online, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Russell, but I'm just saying I've seen so many people online get their knickers in a twist over the, how dare he say, oh, come, it's a semantics discussion. But I don't know, what do you think?
Beyond that, I mean, if you're an actor and you have to play a part, you have to get inside, you have to inhabit a role. A character like Batman is going to require a different mindset. A character like Batman, if he gets shot in the face, he's dead. If you're playing Superman, you don't have to worry about that. So as an actor who's trying to bring a character to life and trying to get into the inner workings of that character, and I'm sure in Pattinson's mind's thinking to himself, he isn't a superhero because he can die. He's not invulnerable like Wonder Woman or the Hulk or Superman. And I think when you're trying to make acting choices and figure out where you're coming from as a person, what are you bringing to that role, Pattinson's very aware of the fact that he is not a superhero. He is mortal. He is vulnerable. And how do you play that as opposed to if he was hired to play a character that is invulnerable? It's a whole different mindset, and I think that's what he was referring to.
Yeah, and I agree. And then the person talking to the pastor said, well, he does wear a cape. So, okay, sure. And listen, I don't disagree. I count Batman as a superhero. That's what I do in my head. But the distinction is irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether we call him a hero or a superhero. It whatever. It doesn't matter. That's ultimately my feelings, that Russell, is that it just doesn't matter. All right. Superman Steve writes, do you think it's really unfair for a person to negatively judge another person on a movie you absolutely love? Do you think it's really unfair for a person to negatively judge another person on a movie that you absolutely love?
I guess he means if that other person doesn't like the movie that you love. Like if you love a movie and someone else doesn't?
Well, anyway, no, because then you're an idiot. Then you're an idiot if you do that. All movies are subjective. There's going to be movies you love that other people don't. There's going to be movies that you hate that other people love. You're an idiot if you judge somebody based on that. Like,
man.
There are people who I would tease friends of mine. I would tease because we're joking. Who like a friend of mine who likes the prequels. I'm like, I just don't know if I can invite you over to my house anymore. But it's a joke. I mean, no, film is subjective. No, it's the stupidest thing in the world.
I'm incredibly judgmental when it comes to people's movies taste. If your movie taste doesn't pass muster, but I do give a lot of latitude, but still.
I tell you what, when I came to LA, I got on this kick because my friends introduced me to it. I was single and I'm in LA, and my girlfriend and I had broken up because I had moved to Los Angeles. So I'm in Los Angeles, and I tried the online dating thing for a while, and it was, you know what? All the negatives, I had a very good experience with doing online dating stuff. I did. I actually really enjoyed online dating. I thought it was a lot of fun. Met some wonderful, cool people. But I would always ask, every time, a first date, stuff like that, I always ask. I believe you can tell a lot about a person by asking him, what are your 3 favorite movies of all time? What is important to note, though, is I'm not saying I think you can tell a lot about the quality of a person by their favorite 3 movies of all time. I just think by hearing what art impacted them and touched them in such a way, that tells you something about them. Neither negative or positive. Actually, I think it gives you a little bit of a window into their soul. And I would always ask that, but never about like, oh, if you say Sharknado and I don't know, what's the one with David Spade where he's got the mullet? Joe Dirt.
Oh,
if you say Joe Dirt, blah, 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 I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't be thrilled, but I wouldn't judge somebody for that. So no, never judge somebody based on that. Oh, anyway, and Superman Steve also followed up and said, also my favorite Christmas movie ever is Home Alone. What's yours? We already talked about ours, but Home Alone's a good one. Home Alone's a good one. All right, Anonymous writes, hey, John, what is the greater achievement? Game of Thrones winning 59 Emmys and getting 160 nominations, or the Lord of the Rings trilogy winning a total of 17 Oscars and getting 24 nominations? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. All right. I think the better, like if I had to choose tomorrow, I can spend next week watching all the Lord of the Rings or watching all Game of Thrones. I mean, length notwithstanding. Lord of the Rings is the better property, in my opinion. I very much like Game of Thrones. However, what's the greater achievement? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's the Game of Thrones one. And the reason it's the Game of Thrones one is this. The Lord of the Rings mark can be beat. That Lord of the Rings, it's beatable. It's within reach. It's going to take something really special, but it's beatable and in reach. That Game of Thrones mark, it is so far ahead of everything else. Like it's like looking at Wayne Gretzky's records in the NHL. Like his records are so far beyond anything anybody can even think about. Like it's not even conceivable that they're ever going to be caught. I mean, look, everything eventually does, but like even Lord of the Rings Return of the King, no film in history has ever won more Academy Awards than Lord of the Rings Return of the King. However, there are 2 other films that's won as many. 11 is the all-time mark. The Game of Thrones mark it's stupefying. Like when you sit down and look at it historically, it is a stupefying mark. And so I'm going to say, even though I think Lord of the Rings is the better property, I think the Game of Thrones mark is the more impressive. Rob, how would you address that?
I'd say pretty spot on, but I would say this. the Lord of the Rings trilogy, especially Return of the King, had a huge sort of prejudice to overcome in the minds of Academy voters. A balls-to-the-wall fantasy epic had never been honored ever in the way it was honored by the Academy with Return of the King. Whereas Game of Thrones came out in a time where people were expecting a lot more of television, and Game of Thrones was a leader for a decade in terms of groundbreaking TV. And it was a real trailblazer, whereas Lord of the Rings was fighting against a sort of a stodgy Academy that sort of always thumbed its nose at science fiction, fantasy, and horror films. So for Lord of the Rings to have overcome that and have its third movie be the one that stuck the landing for everybody that was nominated is pretty astonishing. And I don't know if it'll ever happen again in Oscar history, ever. But I see a TV show eventually getting made that could rival what Game of Thrones did. It hasn't been made yet, and it's going to take something extraordinary, but I could see that feat being duplicated sooner than I could see what Lord of the Rings did being duplicated.
All right, and I'm of the opposite, because I can see the Lord of the Rings one being duplicated before that one. And by the way, too, to your point, I can't think of any fantasy television shows that ever made that sort of a mark at the Emmys and stuff, too. So they're two really groundbreaking franchises in that way. It's a great question. Well done. All right, next up, Murray Reich writes, I saw Queen and Slim, and it was great. It was great. Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith performances were superb. Loved the story, the intensity, the emotions, the humor, the action, on and on. By the end, I was trying to collect myself. Overall, 8.5 out of 10. And listen, I was pleasantly surprised by the movie, not because I wasn't expecting it to be good. I was expecting it to be good. But my surprise came from that it's not quite the movie I thought it was going to be. It is far more... what was the word I was searching for when I came out of the movie for the first time? Not emotional, but it's endearing. It's a sweet movie. That's the thing. I wasn't expecting the movie to be so sweet, and it interweaves that with all the other stuff going on in the movie that I was frankly not expecting. And it is a wonderful movie, and well done to them, absolutely. And I agree with you, Murray. It was a terrific, terrific accomplishment for them. Murray Reich also writes in, I was looking at Tuesday, December movies list, and I was very surprised why the Playmobil movie hasn't been on it. LML, just kidding. It's so hilarious that this movie has already gotten months worth of bad reviews, and they're begging people to go see it for only $5 a ticket. Yikes. So for those of you who've never heard of it, and you can't blame me if you haven't, there's this animated film that is clearly a Lego ripoff movie called Playmobil, and I'm not even sure why they named it that.
Well, there's a toy,
right?
You know,
but it should have had a better title. And Harry Potter himself, Daniel Radcliffe, is one of the lead voices in it, and it looks abysmal. And they haven't even bothered marketing this thing. You can find a trailer online if you go look for it. But yeah, there are a few movies I didn't put on the list of the big December movies. And there's a reason that one wasn't on there, because no one's going to go see that one, and it looks terrible.
A buddy of mine had a Playmobil pirate ship that I always sort of drooled over. I never owned any Playmobil when I was a kid.
But it is clearly trying to take advantage of the popularity of the Lego movies, and it looks like Lego, all that kind of stuff, and it's like... well, whatever. Okay, let's move on here. Excellent point, Murray. Thanks for bringing that up. Quinn Fowley writes, as a massive Planet of the Apes fan, particularly Andy Serkis's iterations, I was elated to find out about this Planet of the Apes film Disney and presumably 20th Century Fox have in store, until I learned it's being made by the director of the supposedly iffy Maze Runner films. Let's hope they at least keep screenwriter Mark Bomback. For the record, I've not seen any of the Maze Runner films, so I can't speak to how iffy they supposedly are, but it's still worrisome to me. Again, I go back to what I was saying before. I think he didn't do a bad little job with Cirque du Freak. That was a tough one to make. I mean, it's a stupid little YA novel about a vampire and a circus. He made something watchable out of that. And that first Maze Runner movie, I just remember even around the AMC offices, when we watched that, all of us were like, that was way better than we thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. It wasn't one of the top 10 movies of the year, But we were just like, that was not what we were expecting. It had a lot to it. Now, the subsequent ones weren't so great, but at some point you can't overcome the source material. So, and again, we got to keep in mind here, Fowley, that he was working on this mouse guard thing before Disney pulled the plug on it. And it was looking really good. And what this tells me is that Disney was sufficiently impressed enough with what he was doing with that mouse guard material that they felt, yeah, we can give this guy Planet of the Apes. Which brings up, you might then ask the question, well, why didn't they just do mouse guard? Because they simply didn't feel, no matter how good it may have been, that it could have made money. Because it was going to be an expensive film, and they didn't think it was going to be able to bring in enough box office to justify the expense. That's why they pulled the plug on that one. So I think there's reason here to be optimistic. Anyway, Rob, how would you feel about that?
I'm with you on this. I mean, the Mouse Guard project in the first place, the fact that he was on that project, I mean, I love those graphic novels, the material. I don't know if I have all of them, but when they first came out, I loved that. I was eating it up. He's obviously got taste. So, hey, give him a shot. That first Maze Runner movie, it was better than I thought, just like with you. I feel the same way. And you've got to give somebody a chance to build up their career. And obviously, there's a reason why this has been put into development. Somebody's seen something that's made them realize, ooh, there's something interesting here. Let's pursue this further. So that leads me to believe that there's something special going on. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, and I would say when you're looking at a franchise like Maze Runner, ask yourself the question, given the source material, are there a lot of directors who could have taken on those movies and made them much better? I'm not sure the answer to that is yes. I'm sure there are a few, but I'm not sure the answer to that is yes. You got to keep that in mind. Anyway, interesting point to bring up there, man. All right, Jonathan writes, I've always considered myself a novelist and have only written one crappy script in high school. But after watching a short film in loving memory, after watching a short film in...
I think he said means and loving movies.
And loving movies, I guess. Is it crazy for me to want to make a film with no filmmaking background, but just a love for films and its artistry? Not at all, Jonathan. Not at all. Listen, I took a film course that was recommended by Quentin Tarantino. And it's called a 3-day film school in Hollywood. And a lot of Hollywood celebrities have gone to this 3-day film school. It was, I don't know if he's still doing it, but it was taught by this guy called Dove S.S. Simmons, who is the stereotypical Henry Winkler from, what's the new show?
Barry.
The Henry Winkler Barry character, dude with the white beard and the scarf and what. But anyway, one of the things that he said in that course that has really stuck with me is he said, everybody thinks there's this big mysticism to making movies. He goes, you want to make a movie? Here's what you do. Get a camera, point it at a couple of friends, hit record and say action. An hour and a half later, say cut and hit stop. You've made a movie. And he goes, you need to understand this. That's movie making. Before we go into anything else, that's all there is. That's all it is. And you know what? I made my movie, not my documentary, but I made my movie, The Anniversary, specifically because of that. I don't have any filmmaking background. I just, everybody talks about, I want to make a movie someday. Screw that. I don't want to talk about it. I want to do it. So I did it. I got some money together, not much. I got some friends together. I did a little bit of casting. I made a little movie. By Hollywood standards, it's a giant sack of shit. But you know what? I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of my little movie that I made. And it was a great experience. And one of the big things, too, I was already doing the movie blog. I just wanted to gain a better appreciation for these artists who actually do make movies. And I wanted to gain a better appreciation. I wrote it. I produced it. I directed it. Boom. So absolutely, Jonathan, you go do it. Go do it. You got to start somewhere, so go ahead and go do it and get, you know what, and even if it sucks and all that, you gave yourself a great experience. Rob, as a guy who just rapped on a film yesterday, what would you say to Jonathan?
I'd say absolutely do that. I mean, movie making is telling a story. You're telling a story, and instead of writing a paragraph, you're using a picture to stand in where that paragraph is going to go. And so a succession of images, a succession of things you use to tell that story. And like you just said, John, some people need $100 million to do it, or you can be an independent filmmaker. Start and make, my girlfriend has been taking a film course at our local community college. She's made like 4 movies. She's never made a movie before. She's a fine artist, but she's never made a film before, and they're pretty good. And she's learning. I mean, all of a sudden, she's, oh my God, the deluge of questions she's asking me. And we watch movies. She's like, how'd they do that? So they've kind of created a monster. So I don't know how I feel about that. But she's making movies. And I think everybody, I'm with John, pick up a camera and go do it. Just do it.
All right, let's move on here. Next one up comes us from also from Jonathan, who writes, being a Filipino and with you, by the way, guys, please don't just put the letter N. Please say it, because I don't know what you're asking. Say and. Being a Filipino and with you married to one, I always wanted to ask, have you and, by the way, and does not have an E, have you and watched any Filipino movies /TV/telenovelas? Also, though you make me cringe and laugh when you try speaking Tagalog, deep respect to you for trying. Salamat, John Campea and Rob. Well, kumusta ka and salamat for that. That's the extent of my Tagalog.
Don't speak any Filipino.
Yeah, there's that. And lumpia. God, I'm a big fan of lumpia. Anyway, no. We do not watch and does not like any Filipino television at all. But you know what's funny? My God. Well, I bought my mother-in-law.
I like Filipino girls. Are there beautiful Filipino girls on telenovelas?
I am ruined. Like now, I just think Filipino women are like the most gorgeous women in the world. I've been like, Anne ruined me. But anyway, I bought my mother-in-law a Roku specifically so she could, because there's a channel on a Roku that you can just get all this Filipino programming. And Ann and I have sat in a room with her before watching some of this Way Wa, or anyway, there's some popular show over there, and I try to watch, it's like, this is so cringy. And then Ann and I would sit down and try to watch some of their novella stuff. It's like, oh my God, this is so bad. But listen, it is a passionate industry over there. They love making content, and you gotta love that. And actually, my uncle-in-law, I guess you could say, who's in government over there, they've often said to me, you should come over to the Philippines and make a movie, because you can do one. You could get one done over here pretty easy. And I don't laugh. I've thought about it, but no. Anne has never liked the Filipino programming herself, and I'm not a fan. But I've watched a lot of it because my mother-in-law, if it's not the Shopping Network, and it's not those effing awful Hallmark movies of the week, because my God, she always has those on, it's the Filipino stuff.
Dude, why don't we get a grant from the Filipino government, take the John Campea Show on the road, we do the show from over there, and we go make a movie in the Philippines?
We could totally do it.
I'm in.
Count
me in.
You know how inexpensively we could do it for, too?
Let's do it. Let's make some cool action thrillers, science fiction, horror. I don't know what, but let's go.
And we'll call it Salamat. Salamat. I can't remember.
Well, I'm in.
Thanks for sending that in, Jonathan. Anyway, Captain Confidence writes, where are we at here? Captain Confidence writes, your Mr. Rogers approach and Stephen A. Smith epic rants bring us such joy as a fellow religious studies major at Baylor. When viewers praise the show for getting them through tough times, it's confirmation that this is your ministry. Keep shining your light, bro. Oh, thanks so much, man. That's really nice of you to say. I appreciate that. And I honestly, it is one of the, I pause every time I get an email or a tweet or something like that, because we get a lot of them from people saying that, the show has helped them through a lot or whatever. And it's not me, it's the movies and it's the movie fan community. But it is one of the most awesome things to me that I get to be a part of that. Because I know the movie fan community has been that for me as well. And I love it when I get to be a part of the movie fan community that gets to do that for other people as well. So it is one of the coolest things. So thank you for the kind words, Captain Confidence. I really appreciate it, man. All right. Adam, where are we at? Frasher, there he is. Writes, any interest in a Star Wars anthology show a la Black Mirror or The Twilight Zone? Thanks and keep up the excellent work, my dude. None. I really don't have any interest in something like that.
Dude, come on. That would be awesome.
No, I want an ongoing story. But that said, it also is an incredibly, incredibly difficult thing to do, because with big sci-fi, part of the expense that is often you're able to get around is the fact that you can reuse a lot of stuff.
Well, that's true.
Once you design this CGI character, it's designed. You have it. All you got to do, you got the rigging all done to it. You got design. Now all you got to do is put in the keyframe animation, and still a big deal, but there's that. You've got certain sets. You don't have to rebuild the sets 1,000 times, all that kind of stuff. Doing an anthology film doing an anthology show for some like Star Wars that makes it still feel truly Star Wars, I think that becomes problematic.
It's
Rob,
like
what do you
those
think?
books, Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yeah, but that's
Dude,
a
it's
book.
like Casa. I know, but you just adapt those stories. It's like Mos Eisley, the Cantina becomes like, or a Filgrin and the Modal Nodes. Let's go on the road with them. I want to do that show. A band in the Star Wars universe. A band trying to make good, John. A band trying to make good.
Chasing their dream, Rob. They're just a bunch of kids chasing their dream.
I am in. Almost famous in the Star Wars universe.
All right, thanks for sending that in, Adam. All right, next up is Kurt, who writes, "Hey, JC and crew, what are your thoughts on Florence Pugh?" By the way, I never know if I properly pronounce her name.
I don't either.
Being a rising star, I thought her work so far this year has been great, and I can't wait for her in Little Women, which, by the way, is looking pretty good, and Black Widow, by the way. Thank you for all that you do and bring on the filthy. Well, thanks a lot for that. Of course, she appeared in Midsommar. She appeared in what's that one? The King one.
Oh yeah,
Outlaw King and King Lear.
Isn't she in Little Women too?
He just mentioned that she's going to be in the upcoming Little Women and stuff like that, and of course Black Widow. I need to see more of her. I need to see more of her at this point. She did a thing of Lady Macbeth. She's a Lady Macbeth. I like her so far, but I don't have a large enough sample size just yet. I'm very curious to see her though, because Midsommar, you guys know, was not my favorite film. So I want to give her more of a sample size. We're about to get about to get two very diverse films with her: Little Women, Black Widow.
I do love her Russian accent.
She does sound really good in that, doesn't
good.
she?
I liked her, but yeah, like you said, I want to see more of her. But she seems very diverse in terms of her. I think she's a great actress.
Well, we're going to find it. We're going to about to see a lot more of her, because if Little Women hits and if Black Widow hits, yeah, you're going to hear her name. Maybe not Mena Massoud, but you'll hear her name. All right, let's move on here.
Oh, rub it in. Oh.
Nick Mitford writes, "Hey, John, quick question / theory. I think we are hearing two different Palpatine voices in the TV spots for The Rise of Skywalker. For example, in the recent TV spot Adventure, it is definitely not McDiarmid's voice. Could this be Matt Smith playing a young Palpatine? Could? Sure. Likely? No. I do believe it is. Look, because I remember as well, Rob, hearing the voice, I thought, that didn't sound a lot like Ian McDiarmid, but Ian McDiarmid is now 20 years older than when the last time we heard him.
Clive Revel. He was replaced in The Empire Strikes Back by Ian McDiarmid. They brought him back. My favorite Emperor.
What?
Remember Clive Revel?
Oh, no, McDiarmid is a great Emperor.
Yes. Yes. He was great in Empire.
I'm not saying he wasn't, but Ian McDiarmid is the Empire. Is the Emperor.
The Snow White Empire.
I'm not.
Emperor.
Here's the thing, though. While I had the same first thought, Nick, I'm not convinced that's the case. I'm not convinced that was a different voice. Because remember, McDiarmid is now 20 years older. He who knows? It's possible it's not him. Absolutely it is, because that was my first thought. I'm just saying right now, I'm not convinced that wasn't him. So that's where I'm at right now. This is a really good point there. Rob, did you see that spot? And
I mean, I don't know. People, maybe he's just in a different mood. His voice sounds different. Maybe he's not. He's into the unnatural. That one. He's just got more of his sing song. He's got his more power, or he's a little bit more chilled out at the opera.
No,
Darth Plagueis the Wise. You never know.
Have you heard the tragedy? Darth Plagueis the Wise. All right, next up, Aaron Ross writes, "Hey, John from Tennessee, go Vols, go Titans, bring on the filthy like no filthy has ever been brought on before, because this is the way and I have spoken." Well, thank you. It's always cool when somebody just wants to write in something nice. And I know this hasn't been the Titans' year. It hasn't been the Titans' year. so far, but listen, what a nice thing for you guys to write and say. So thank you so much for that, Aaron, and I will do my very best, my friend. All right, Ariel Sandoval writes, spent the last minute of my break yesterday talking to Rob about the Black Widow trailer. I wish I could have chatted longer, but awesome seeing you, man. Ooh, what's that all about? Where were you?
Online, I think.
Was it online or was it in person?
Wait a minute. Break. I was at getting food yesterday. If that's who I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
I was at a restaurant eating, and he came up to me and said hello.
Oh, there you go.
So yes, that was yes. Two people, John. Two people recognized me yesterday from your show.
It's funny, because I think Aaron's told me about this, and I know Chris has told me about this. It's like I had my first experience where I was just out on the street, and somebody came up to me and recognized me from the show. It's like, that's pretty cool. It's always fun when that happens. All right, next up. Thegis writes, hey, John, greetings from Belgium. I always like hearing about hidden gem movies. If I had to pick one, I'd go for Keith. I have never seen another movie that made me feel so many things. Really beautiful. Have you seen it? Thoughts? Cheers. The only movie Keith I can think of off the top of my head, I think was like a 90s or early 2000s film. It's a high school movie, popular girl, kind of a different kind of kid named Keith, unlikely matching up, and it gets dramatic. I think depression's a part of it. You know what? Give me a second. Let me just look up this damn thing to see if I
have not seen it.
Let me see if I'm thinking, because as often as the case. Hold a second. Keith. Hold a second. Keith, IMDb. Let me see if I can find this thing. 2008. Okay, so it is the one I was thinking of. It's directed by Todd Kessler. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember a lot about it, so I don't know that it made a huge impression on me. But then again, it was 11 years ago, so it's not as old as I thought I remember. So it's 11 years old. I believe I watched it. The pictures all look familiar to me. So I don't know that it made a huge impression on me, though, so I can't say as much. But you've never heard of this one either, Rob,
no.
Right? But hey, listen, Thegis, that's one of the great things about sending in these recommendations is that maybe while Rob and I have seen it or will see it or won't see it, you just said it to thousands of other people who are now, I always get comments from people saying, hey, somebody recommended on your show this movie, so I went to go watch it. So you're influencing a lot of people. Now a lot of other people might go check it out. So thank you for sending that in. All right, next up, the nerd Errant writes, has story and or themes about Christmas is only one type of Christmas movie, though the most common. Alternative Christmas movies is another type, especially when you get sick of the former. Thanks, Hallmark Channel. Die Hard fits in that category. Yeah, look, I will give you the basic underlying reason why Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. To be a Christmas movie, Christmas itself needs to be a part of the central theme of your narrative. Not that it just happens to be at the same time that it's going on. It's like saying, I don't know, that John Wick Chapter 3, it's a Tuesday movie. Why? Because his dog died on a Tuesday.
Wait a minute.
So it's a Tuesday movie.
Then by that rationale, Die Hard is a Christmas movie because it's about a man going home on Christmas Eve to be with his family.
That was circumstance. Christmas is not a part. Christmas itself, there's nothing about Christmas that is integral to the story. I think other than the fact that it so happens to happen at the same time.
But he's going home. He's literally going home for Christmas.
It's not.
Well, he's going to see his wife and his kids.
Yes, at a Christmas party. And
no, but he's going there for Christmas to visit them.
The meaning of or the spirit of, nothing about Christmas is a part of the movie. And that's why
it takes place at a Christmas party.
Again, that's just circumstance. That is literally just, you look at A Wonderful Life. The whole thing about Christmas is imbued into the DNA of the movie itself. It doesn't just happen at Christmas time. It is literally a part of the film. Christmas is a central theme to the film. Christmas Story is a central theme to the film. It doesn't just happen to happen at Christmas time. And so that's why Bruce Willis says it is not a Christmas movie. However, the director of Die Hard does say it's a Christmas movie. And so forever we will have this battle. Forever may the battle reign.
It's all about a family coming together at Christmas.
It's an that is an added meaning to it that was never there. But whatever. Who cares? The movie's awesome. All right. Next up, Simon writes, how would you feel if we only get to hear the voice of the Emperor Palpatine through Vader's helmet? And that would be the scene when Rey and Kylo smash the helmet with their lightsabers. My bad dream. Okay, look. In theory, I would scream. However, something that I brought up on the show yesterday on Dark Side, Light Side with Christian was, in theory, that would make me want to rage scream. But I would have to see it in context. I have heard many ludicrous notions for a movie, but then you see it in the movie and the way it's actually done, you go, oh, well, that makes perfect sense the way it was done, and it actually makes it awesome. So in theory, Simon, rage scream, total rage scream. But I would still give it its chance and see it and see if it actually played out. But yeah, in theory, rage scream. But Rob, they won't. Please tell me they're not going to do that.
I would hope not. You know, it's the drive-through Palpatine at this Darth Vader, whatever, the Darth Vader pylon that you can go talk to. You know, Palpatine, like going to a booth and talking to Dr. Manhattan.
There you go. By the way, didn't love the last episode. I didn't not like it. Don't get me wrong. I did not like it. And the ending of the episode is terrific.
There was a lot of wackiness.
But the rest of the episode was like, oh, okay, this is a decent episode of Watchmen so far. The ending's great, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see where. I mean, 2 episodes left. We'll see where. Is it going to stick the landing?
That's 2 episodes left.
I mean, they left it like 2 hours before the Millennium Clock turns on.
And what's the Millennium Clock?
I don't know.
And so many questions to answer. They better not go, now the final countdown for the Millennium Clock, 5, 4, 3, 2, to be continued next season. I'll go,
no, because this story's supposed to end.
Okay, well, good. Then we'll see. All right. Captain Likari writes, Aladdin started complaining he's had no job offer. No, it's not that he hasn't had any job offers, Captain. He's not even getting auditions, which is really weird for the title star of a $1 billion film that everybody liked. But we'll see. Ryan Lohner writes, still holding out hope that Crisis has a cameo from Henry Cavill with a mustache. Did you hear Henry Cavill's comments the other day? Talking about Justice League, he goes, I just don't like to think about Justice League because I miss my mustache, and it makes me think about the fact that I had to lose my mustache. Which I thought, that is such a perfect comment to make. It's such a great comment to make. Let's see here. Blake writes, I found The Irishman to be more of a long collection of scenes than a purpose-driven narrative. In 3+ hours, I have expected more character development and motivation. It's beautifully acted and shot. I just didn't find much else interesting. Just my opinion. Well, to a degree, it's almost like, and we've seen movies like this before, Blake, and I don't know what you think about this, Rob, but there is a style of filmmaking that almost becomes an anthology series within one movie, right? I would actually argue to a point that Pulp Fiction is a radical example of something like that. Mm-hmm. But so I don't disagree with you per se, but I think even within that, we are looking at the life journey of the Robert De Niro character. I think if you approach The Irishman and understand this isn't a movie about Jimmy Hoffa. This is not a movie about the mob. This is not a movie about Joe Pesci's character. This is not a movie about the Teamsters. This is a movie about this guy and his journey and what he's gone through, and it begins with him and it ends with him. And I think it puts it into a context where when you look at it that way, you actually see the story flow. Now, I have my criticisms of The Irishman because I thought it was unnecessarily too long. But that aside, I actually think when you look at it as the story about Robert De Niro's character, he is the Irishman, the guy who paints houses. I was enthralled with it on that level. Rob, how would you address that?
Well, I mean, I guess that I did see it as a narrative. There was narrative thrust there, and it is, like, I thought you put it very well. It's the journey of this one guy, and it's the journey of this one guy who sort of, again, loses his soul, and to be a good person within the universe that he lives in, to do everybody to what Russell Buffalino wants him to do, become this incredible assassin. and curry favor with everybody. He does. He gets sucked into this world, and this world sort of dooms him, like Godfather 2, when you see at the end with Michael Corleone's soul being gone, when you see Anna Paquin, that last exchange they have. I mean, this guy, what did he lose?
Anna Paquin with no lines. So you see Anna Paquin, you don't hear her, but you see her.
She just asked that one question at the end, but the thing is, the gazes she gives, and then when you see the confessional with the priest at the end, I mean, here's a man who gave up his soul. He gave up his soul in the service of the mob and preserving, I don't know what. What was he preserving? What did it leave him with? When you see all those guys old and in jail and like,
don't give away everything. Don't give away everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I think it had a great journey, and it's a sad journey, and it's an American tragedy is what it is.
All right, last question we got here today with Robert here, because he's got things he's got to do, but Jonathan Lehman writes, Dune is my most anticipated film of 2020.
Bruh.
But there's a lot Denis Villeneuve has to nail to capture Frank Herbert's vision. Big questions about humanity's advancement and role in the universe. Have you read the books, and overall thoughts on the upcoming film? Rob, the stage is yours.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I've read the 6 Frank Herbert novels. You know, Dune, Children of Dune, Dune Messiah, Chapter House Dune, Heretics of Dune, and why am I drawing a blank on the other one? God Emperor of Dune, I think. It's an amazing world building, an amazing science fiction world that has a lot of ties to our world today. There's incredible philosophical concepts about faith and about natural resources and revolution and messianic tendencies. I mean, there's so much going on in these books. Incredible. And I agree. It is my #1 most eagerly awaited movie because that we've got a filmmaker like Denis Villeneuve doing it. And I'm hoping it's going to be one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time. David Lynch's vision of it is severely compromised. I do like the TV miniseries, both Dune and then we got Children of Dune. But I'm hoping that this one is going to be something really, really special. I hope it does really well. I really like what he did with Blade Runner 2049 and and Arrival. And to say that I'm excited about this movie is a massive understatement.
And he does have a lot to accomplish. I
can't even. Apparently, the movie's only the first half of book 1. Yeah, which I can see.
And I'm going to say something that a lot of people are not going to like that I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Denis Villeneuve's job is to not bring Frank's vision to life. Denis Villeneuve's job is to bring his vision of the story and make it great. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but he's now extrapolating, interpolating from one medium into a completely different medium. He's got to give his vision of that material in it. And can he do it justice? He did it justice to Blade Runner. He took other existing material, manifested it his own, and did a magnificent job. So I think there's a lot here to be hopeful for.
Man, and that cast. Yeah,
wow. Dynamic cast. I believe the next, I can't say this definitively, give it a few more years, but I think the next Daniel Day-Lewis is in this movie. The Timothée Chalamet. I think he is going to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis, but we'll have to wait and see. Rob, that does it for all of your time that you got with us today. We will, of course, see you again on Friday.
You will.
Actually, I might need you tomorrow, but we'll talk about this a little bit later. I don't know if you're available or not, but we will have you back. Rob, where can people find you in the meantime in all your adventures?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett or RM Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
All right, Rob, thanks a lot for being here, man, and we will talk to you again a little bit later. All right, guys, with that down, we still got like 20 minutes left, so let's keep right on rolling with your live questions, and we're going to pick things up with KW Garrett83, who writes, loved Knives Out, but AMC showing had 30 minutes of trailers and commercials, so I emailed AMC corporate to complain. AMC sure doesn't make feedback easy. Had to really dig in to find out on their website. And I'm going to, first of all, this is becoming, I am going to do a video, for those of you who have not heard this, I'm going to be making a short video sometime in the next couple of weeks that in 5 minutes or less is going to lay out my complaint as a film fan to movie theaters today. The whole thing about, you tell us the movie starts at 7, you got no effing business starting the movie at 7:30. We paid to be here. We paid for our seat. We didn't pay so you could show us 25 minutes of commercials and trailers. And I'm going to make that video. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to post it on Twitter, and I'm going to ask, and I hardly ever do this, maybe once every 2 years I do something like this. I'm going to ask everybody to take us. I'm going to tag AMC. I'm going to tag Regal. I'm going to tag Cinemark. I'm going to ask all you guys to reply to it or to retweet it and get it out as much as possible, because we as film fans need to start sending a message to the movie theaters. This is unacceptable. You either start the movie when you say, or give us 2 separate listing times. The presentation starts at 7, but then say movie starts at 7:28. You owe it to us because we paid to be in your effing theaters. You owe us letting us know what time the movie actually starts. You owe that to us. And I'm going to ask for everybody's help to kind of get that message out and just flood them with this message. So I'm going to ask for you guys' help. In the meantime, KW, I'm going to tell you this. To get a hold of AMC is actually very, very simple. Tweet them. It's at AMC Helps. And actually, it's been a while since I've used that myself. Let me just right now run over to, there it is. Let me just go over here to go to twitter.com/AMC Helps, just to make sure it's still up and running. And it is. So at AMC Helps. So AMC HELPS. And I have always found, honestly, they have been pretty responsive. They're pretty responsive when you tweet to them. So if you need a way to reach out to them specifically for a specific issue, AMC Helps is a pretty good thing to do. So just wanted to give you that. But guys, keep your eyes open for that little video that I'm going to be making here pretty soon. All right. David Michael writes, in the Rise of Skywalker trailers, even after the saber was destroyed, it looks as if Rey is still using Anakin's saber. Does this surprise you? I kind of expected a Rey original. Does she have the Jedi text? She does have the Jedi text after all. It's hard to say. It's hard to say whether that is still the original and she just repaired it. Did she make a new one from scratch? Was she able to recover the kyber crystal itself and just, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of questions in there that we're going to have to get answered. But you do bring up an excellent point there, David Michael, which is the fact she does have the Jedi texts. And maybe page turners, they are not, according to Master Yoda, but they could have all the information in there that she needed. So that's an interesting idea. Again, it's too hard for me to tell right now which saber it is she's got. Could be repaired, could be from scratch, could be a new one that's based completely on that Luke one at the same time. So I'm sure we'll find out the answer to that in just 2 weeks. All right. Angela Dashner writes, oh, thank you, Angela, for writing in, by the way. Okay. Where'd we go here? Saw knives. And by the way, Angela, because you sent in a $50 question, I'm going to answer your question in its own standalone video. Keep your eye open for that a little bit later today, but I'll just touch on it here quickly before we put up your own video. Saw Knives Out last night, and I loved it. Nice to see a well-done murder mystery, indeed. I love watching the old murder mystery movies. What are your favorite classic murder mysteries? Love to hear what you and Rob like. Maybe it will be new to go back and watch. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to go more in depth into this later today in your own standalone video. Of course, guys, I don't expect people to do this often, but if you do send in a question that's $50 or more, on the front page of my YouTube channel, one of the playlists is user-submitted topics. So when people send in a question like Angela just did, I will do its own 3 to 5 minute video on that. So I'll just say quickly, like, obviously all the Agatha Christie stuff, Orient Express, Nile, Maltese Falcon. There's a lot of really good ones, but I'll go more into depth on that on your own video a little bit later, Angela. So keep your eyes open for that. And thank you, Angela, for supporting the channel on that level. We appreciate it around here. All right. David Dixon writes, hi. I live in Pine Bluff, is AR Arizona? I'm going to go with Arizona. Arizona. There is only one theater here. Woo! I wish I had another option because it's awful. Dark screen, unbalanced sound mixing, and worst of all, the picture is zoomed in. Really? Bye, subtitles. What could I do to get all this changed? I've seen a few films there, like Joker and others, but the worst offense from this theater is Midsommar, where I couldn't read the subtitles because 3/4 of it was cut off. I can't go to another city, and the theater is owned by an out-of-state company. Man. Well, okay. That is a tough situation, David. I honestly do not know what the option there is. Because you're in a town that's got a monopoly. Whenever you're dealing with a monopoly in any way, shape, or form, it makes doing anything about it really, really tough. Because what are your other options? Like if there's only one place to get ice cream in my city and I don't like the ice cream, what am I going to do? Go to another ice cream shop? I don't have that option. And so it really does limit your options, which is one of the reasons why the government is supposed to kind of deter monopolies. But man, well, first of all, you should absolutely talk to the management and say, dude, there's subtitles in this movie and I couldn't read the subtitles. There's a legitimate complaint there that made you incapable of understanding and enjoying the movie. I would have asked for my money back. But beyond that, man, I don't know, other than, see if you can find other like-minded people in your town to get together and try to entice another movie theater to come into town, or try to open a small locally owned theater. Like even if it's like a 50-seat theater, that wouldn't be easy. It would be expensive, but maybe you could make a go of it. But I don't know, David, you just presented a really difficult scenario, because when you are dealing with a localized monopoly, it makes things tough. Because when it's not a monopoly and there's competition, where then you can say to that theater, improve this, and we're not coming back to your theater. We're going to go to Gus's movie theater until you improve this. Now they have to make things better or else they go out of business. But when they're the only game in town, man, that makes it tough. It makes it tough. Listen, Dave, for all of you guys who are watching live, if any of you guys have some advice or some input or some ideas for David, by all means, please jump into the comments section and let David know what you guys think about that. All right. Grant Hernandez writes, why does Godzilla get overlooked? First one did too. Because they haven't been great. If you're talking about the new incarnations of the Godzilla movies, they haven't been great. I mean, the first one I enjoyed. The Godzilla King of the Monsters I was quite disappointed by, and it didn't do well at the movies. And now Godzilla vs. Kong just got pushed. They're not doing themselves any favors at this point with the big push and all that kind of stuff. So here's hoping Godzilla vs. Kong is awesome, though. Jonathan writes, I'm a huge movie fan, but I always have a hard time with this. How do you guys know when... Oh, guys, please use full words. How do you guys know when and where each act ends and starts? Example, how do you know when one act ends and act two begins? Because it seems like everyone but me knows exactly when that happens. Please explain. Well, I'm not going to go into it in depth. There's a lot of videos online that talk about the 3-act structure and all this kind of stuff. But essentially, and it's difficult to tell as you're watching a movie. As you're watching it, it's difficult to tell. I mean, people really keyed in can do it, but it's difficult to tell that, okay, this was clearly the end of Act 1, and now we're going into Act 2. It's usually more after you've watched the movie, then you can look back on it and you can see where the things happen. But basically, they're marked by two major changes in direction, either for the narrative as a whole or for the character. The character starts in a scenario, something significant happens, changes the direction of the movie or the character's direction and path. Then later on, as you're heading in the third act, another massive shift or change will happen, and it gets rolling into something else. So it's a lot easier to look back on a movie and identify those turning points. It's not so easy to identify those major turning points as you're sitting there engrossed in the movie and watching as it goes. But again, Jonathan, there's a lot more stuff that you can get online. There's a lot of online videos and stuff like that about the 3-act structure. So I would encourage you to go look this up, because you're going to get a much more in-depth answer than I can just give right now. Anyway, thanks for sending that in, man. And by the way, Jonathan, don't feel bad. You're not the first person to send in a question asking that. So don't feel bad about that whatsoever. All right. Jacob Silvers writes, release the video of Mickey Mouse arresting you. Yeah. I just kind of did that on the spur of the moment yesterday, talking about the test screening thing, and I cannot believe how many emails, tweets, and comments I've gotten about that. But yeah, there you go. Thanks for that, Jacob. Tyler Yeats writes, history isn't kind to men who play God. Love that Bond trailer. Dude, I have never flipped out on a Bond trailer. I flipped out about this trailer. And that line is so good. History isn't kind to men who play God. Such a great line in such a great trailer. Dude, I'm with you, Tyler. I'm over the moon about that trailer. I thought the trailer was great. James Tucker writes, The Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker TV spots all say the film is not yet rated by the MPAA. Obviously, it will be a PG-13. So far, there's been no press release about the rating because it's insignificant. Why do you think The Rise of Skywalker hasn't been rated yet so close to the release, closer than any other Disney Star Wars movie to date? It doesn't. I don't care. I mean, honestly, James, the answer to the question is I don't care. Who cares? It's completely irrelevant. Look, we all know it's going to be a PG-13 film. It very well could be the case that they may be playing Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker so close to the vest that they haven't even let the MPA watch it yet or screen it yet. Remember, yesterday was the first time they let the crew, the cast watch it. They haven't let even the cast see the movie until yesterday. So it could be, and I don't know that this is true, I'm just speculating. It could be that maybe they're just playing so close to the vest they haven't let the MPA get their hands on it yet. So I don't know. What I do know is that it's irrelevant. It really doesn't matter at all because we all know it's going to be PG-13. We know they're not going to make it rated R. I mean, another option is maybe they showed it to the MPAA and maybe the MPA is just taking a lot of time because maybe the MPA actually thinks it might earn a PG rating instead of a PG-13. I doubt that, but who knows? A lot of different reasons, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because it's not going to affect the movie one way or the other. Brian Sheehan writes, in 007, is Malik playing a clone of Waltz's Blofeld? It's not unprecedented in older 007 films. I'm sure this is what they were setting up hype. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't think that's what they're doing. But it ain't the craziest idea. It seems like a little bit of a far out there idea in a modern context. Like for today's Bond films, it seems a little out there, like the crushing of what Robert would call verisimilitude. But you know what? It is not the craziest idea. It's not the craziest idea. I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's not what they're doing, but I retain the right to change my mind on that, Brand, because it's, again, you might be onto something. It is not the craziest idea in the world. Dan M. writes, since Henry Cavill is done with Superman, he says he's not done, but we'll see. Henry Cavill is done with Superman, and this is Craig's last Bond movie. Do you think that Cavill could play the next Bond? As he was already second choice to Craig, would love Rob's thoughts. Well, you just missed Rob. Listen, I've said for a while, I would love, especially after watching Man from U.N.C.L.E., I would love to see Henry Cavill as the next Bond. He'd be great for that because they already thought he would make a great Bond because he was the runner-up to play Bond to Daniel Craig when they cast Daniel Craig. So could he? Yeah, absolutely could. But it could go to a lot of other actors as well. And a lot of other actors could play the role that I'd be just as excited about. All I'll say is that if tomorrow they announced that Henry Cavill was playing Bond, I'd be one of the guys very excited about it. Okay, next up, Oxynor writes, yesterday I mentioned Natasha's training with the Winter Soldier, and it's from the comics. But in Civil War, when she fights him briefly, she says, you can at least recognize me. So that's obviously from their training, a nice reference. Oh, I don't believe that at all. I think that was from when they were fighting in Civil War. Remember, they had already encountered each other in Winter Soldier. So, I mean, I think the most clear and obvious thing there, Oxynor, is that they recognize me is that they have already met each other in a previous movie. I do not believe that is a reference to the comics at all. I don't think that's a reference to that at all. I think it's just a reference to the events of Winter Soldier. I don't think we have to make it any more complicated than that. And I don't think it goes any deeper than that. And remember, these movies, this is a very important thing to keep in mind. These movies are not the comics. The comics are different. The comics are their own thing. The movies are their own thing. You know, too many times we as comic book fans and movie fans, we try to say, well, it has to be this because in the comics it does that. We forget these are two totally separate things. One is based on the other, but they're not tethered together. So that's important for us to keep in mind. I sometimes lose sight of that as well. And I got to catch myself, wait, because I caught myself going, well, it's probably this because in the comics they did that. But then I got to catch myself and I go, but just because it was in the comics means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. So personally, I think the most clear and obvious answer is that it was a reference to the events of Winter Soldier. That's my thought at any rate. Okay. Pubes writes, come on, John, why don't you come with Rob to London for the 007 premiere next April? I can show you both around. London is an amazing city. Listen, Pubes, I've always wanted to go to London. I really have, especially since my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada We have this tiny little airport. Even though we're only an hour away from the Toronto International Airport, in Hamilton, we've got this tiny little airport, and they actually had an airline that flew direct from Hamilton to London. And I've always just wanted to run over there because in 5 hours, you can get to London from Hamilton. And I've always wanted to go. I just don't know how I'd ever have the time. I don't know how I'd ever have the time, but, and by the way, I don't have an invitation to the premiere of 007, so that's a little problem there too. But someday, Pubes, I would love to go to London. I've always wanted to go. Darth Sidious writes, "Hi, John and Rob, what do you think of the latest Crisis trailer?" Still haven't watched it. Listen, I've always liked the CW Arrowverse crossovers. I look forward to them every year. I got to admit, I am less excited about it this year than I have been in years past. And I think the reason I am less excited about it this year, not that I'm not looking forward to it, I am. I think the reason I am less excited about it this year is that it really feels like they have no fucking idea what they're doing with it. It just feels like they're just throwing everything at it without any thought. Wouldn't it be cool if this was in it? Yeah, let's just do it. How does it fit into an over-hour narrative? Who cares? Just throw it in. Oh, and then wouldn't it be cool if this would be in it? Oh, that would be cool. Throw that in it too. And there's no thought to the overall thing. What really drove that home for me was when, what's the guy's name who played Lex Luthor? Rosenbaum. When Rosenbaum told the story of, yeah, they just came to me and said, you want to come in and be Lex Luthor in this? And they couldn't tell him. They had no idea what Lex Luthor was going to be doing in it. And they needed an answer from him that day without being able to tell him what it was he'd be doing or what the role he'd be playing is. I mean, playing Lex Luthor, obviously, but what role would Lex be playing in it? They didn't even know. And it makes me very worried that this whole crossover this year is just one big shtick. Ooh, let's get this Smallville Superman in there too. Oh yeah, let's put Brandon Routh in a Superman. Oh, and then let's get this guy. Oh, and then let's get this guy. Let's just throw it all in there. And it just feels like they're just throwing everything in there and there's really no thought to making an actual good story. I don't know that that's the case. This could be the best crossover ever. Could be the best crossover ever. I'm just seeing the way they've put it together and then hearing Michael Rosenbaum's telling the story about what it was revealed to him and all that kind of stuff. It just makes me worried that this is just all going to be one big fan service thing, which honestly doesn't excite me. Like, I liked Crisis on Earth X because I thought Crisis on Earth X was a really fun story. I thought it was a really fun story. I've liked the other years that they've done stuff because I thought they made really fun stories. And this one, I don't even know if they gave two shits about the story. It feels like they didn't. It feels like they really don't care about what they do in the crossover. They just throw everybody in it. Look, everybody, we've got, Conroy. We got the guy who did the voice of Batman in the old animated series. Woo! And they're just throwing everything in there for the hell of it. I don't know. It might be the best one ever. And I'm making it sound like I'm not looking forward to it. I am. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just not as excited. So, like, when I heard yesterday that the new trailer dropped, I didn't feel the need to just rush over and watch it. I don't know. I've never been like that for this stuff before. So we'll see how it turns out. All right. Max Bishop sends in a really large super chat. Thank you, Max, for supporting the channel on that level, dude. All right. Hey, John, not a big fan of Colby Covington. Yeah, neither am I. I honestly think he's overrated. I really do. Anyway, but I do think he has a legitimate chance of beating No, he doesn't. He's got a lucky punch chance. That's it. He has a lucky punch chance at beating Uzma. There's, other than a lucky punch, which can happen in any fight. I mean, hell, Matt Serra beat George St. Pierre until they had their rematch and St. Pierre destroyed him. But so anything like that can happen. And so Colby Covington has what they call a puncher's chance. But other than a puncher's chance, he has no hope in this fight. And I'll get to that in a second. He has a legitimate chance of beating Usman, who is, of course, the middleweight champion right now. Who do you think wins? Also, you can only watch one, Khabib versus Tony or Conor versus Cowboy. Which do you watch? Oh, Khabib. He's the baddest man on the planet. I watch the Khabib fight all day, every day. Absolutely. That's the fight I watch. I really want to see Conor versus Cowboy. I think that's going to be an exciting fight, too. But if I have to only watch one, you watch the best fighter on the planet, and that's Khabib. Let's put it this way. Colby Covington would not beat Tyrone Woodley, the former middleweight champion. Colby Covington was trying to get a title shot against Tyrone Woodley. I do not believe that Colby Covington had a chance against Tyrone Woodley. Then Usman fought Woodley. And other than George St. Pierre, Tyrone Woodley has been welterweight. Tyrone Woodley had been the most dominant, best welterweight champion of all time, other than George St. Pierre. Colby Covington would not have beat him. Anything can happen, but generally, Colby Covington would not have beaten Woodley. And Usman destroyed Woodley. Like, it wasn't close. It wasn't even a contest. Usman dominated Woodley. Usman is a bad, bad man. Colby Covington is a very technically good fighter, but he has no chance. Other than the puncher's chance, other than a lucky chance, Usman's going to slaughter this guy. He's going to slaughter him, as he would against any welterweight in the world right now. There's not a welterweight on the planet that can get in a ring with Usman the way he is right now. None. Not a single welterweight. My all-time favorite fighter, George St. Pierre. If George St. Pierre came out of retirement right now, which he's toyed with doing, but if GSP came out of retirement right now and challenged for the welterweight title, he has no chance. Usman will kill him. Usman will just flat out kill him right now. So anyway, that's my thought on that. But again, Matt Serra beat GSP with a puncher's chance. It can happen. It can happen in any fight, but that's the only chance he has. It is the only chance he has. It's the only chance any welterweight on the planet has right now, as a matter of fact. But we'll see how it all goes. Matthew Phillips writes, "Hello, John and company. Do you think a war comedy like MASH could be remade and exist today?" Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. I think you could. I mean, you would handle it a little bit better than MASH did in its era. It would be handled a little differently. But yes, I think doing something lighthearted in the midst of something tragic is something that I think that's at the core of entertainment. I really do. I think it's sometimes the stuff that we need. So yes, I do believe it could. But you'd have to find the right way to do it and tell the right story, just like in anything else. But I believe it can be done, Matthew. I really do. Now, by the way, it's not enough people mention and reference MASH. It's one of the all-time great shows. Thanks for bringing that up, man. All right. Marie Seifring writes, over under 40% that Baby Yoda is the must-have toy this Christmas and outsells even the most popular video games. Old-timers think Cabbage Patch Kids. Thanks. Here's the problem. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of Baby Yoda merchandise. That's the only problem. See, here's the thing, Marie. If there was a ton of Baby Yoda product out there, like legitimate Baby Yoda product, I believe it would fly off the shelves. But there's not a lot, if any, legitimate Baby Yoda product out there. So I'm going to go under 40%, not because of a lack of popularity, but because of a lack of product. So I'm going to go under 40% on that. Let's see if that changes between now and Christmas. Nick Gertz writes, not that it didn't already feel fantastic. What do you think about Chapter 4 and where the Mandalorian goes from here? Will he reveal himself to another important character? Well, we talked about this a lot on Dark Side, Light Side yesterday, but listen, we talked about it on the John Campea Show the other day too. 2 days ago, I talked on Monday's show, I believe, we talked on the John Campea Show about why Episode 4 of The Mandalorian was so pivotal and important. It is my second favorite episode so far. I've liked them all, but this was my second favorite episode. I thought it was fantastic. It took us into an environment that we've never really been in Star Wars before. We got our first real bit of character development with The Mandalorian. We actually got an evolution and a growth in the dynamic between Baby Yoda and The Mandalorian. Like The Mandalorian, you could tell in previous episodes, feels an obligation to this Baby Yoda creature. This was the first time we actually saw the development of actual affection between them. And that was a majorly important step forward in the evolution of the story and of the characters themselves. I thought it was great. Where does it go from here? I don't know. Do I think he's going to take off his helmet for somebody? Yes. Because they've been making such a big deal out of the fact that he refuses to take, because of his code, that he will not take off his helmet in front of anybody else. Because they've been making such a big deal of that, I believe that all that has been set up for when he finally does. And it's going to make it that more impactful because we know what an important thing it is for him to not do that. So the fact that he's going to do it, I think it'll just make it that much more relevant and important. All right. Tony Curran writes, watched the 30th anniversary screening of Die Hard last night at the Odeon. That's great. Amazing experience. Felt like I was watching the movie for the first time. Everyone clapped and cheered at the end. It is, listen, we often use the term, Tony, about movies that hold up. You know, movies that hold up. Die Hard is a movie that you can watch today, I believe, for the first time as a true non-Christmas movie. But I believe that Die Hard, seriously, is a movie you could watch today for the very first time and be just as impacted by it as somebody who watched it for the first time 30 years ago. I really do. It holds up beautifully. I think that is a movie that just holds up beautifully and will probably hold up forever. It's just that level of a film, and man, what a great experience to go watch it on the big screen for its 30th anniversary. That sounds like it was a really good time, Tony. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thank you for sharing your experience with us, man. All right. Johnny Snacks, I like that name, writes, hey, John, great job as always. Thank you, Johnny Snacks. Quick question. With Disney now having Fox properties, will we see any changes to Disney theme parks to include these new characters such as rides, etc., or will they keep that separate? Thanks. I think there's a good chance, but what Fox stuff is very theme parkable? I don't know that Predator or Alien is very theme parkable, at least not to Disney theme parks. I mean, Avatar, we could see more Avatar stuff get developed. That's one thing. I don't know that X-Men, I mean, they could incorporate X-Men into the new Marvel area that they have over at Disneyland. So that's possible too. So yeah, we absolutely could. Give it time though, because things with Disney parks moves very slowly for a very good reason. So give it time. But yeah, I believe that's absolutely a possibility, Johnny. I really, really do. All right. Cy writes, hey, John. Hello, Cy. Now I was in the same boat as you with the whole Snyder Cut situation. And as much as I don't want to bring it up again, Zack Snyder just confirmed on Vero that it exists with a picture of the cut timing at 2:14. Nothing has changed, Cy. Nothing has changed. We have always said he has a cut of the movie. Zack Snyder has said he has many cuts of the movie. Remember that? Zack Snyder says he has many cuts of the movie. But he has a cut of the movie. What we has always said and what Zack Snyder has never refuted is that what does not, remember, Warner Brothers just affirmed this the other day. What does not exist is a fully post-production ADR, Foley, color correction, timing, visual effects, all that stuff, and the film's composer confirmed that they never finished the music for that version of the film either. He has a cut of the film. That's indisputable. We've said that. There are apples in the bag. We acknowledge this exists. A cut of the film exists. What does not exist is a fully post-production completed, ready to be released version of the film. That doesn't exist. Warner Brothers reaffirmed that the other day. So yes, a version you could sit down and watch, but not all the sound is finished, not all the color correction is finished, not all the visual effects is finished, not all the musical scoring is finished. We've heard this confirmed by Warner Brothers, the film composer, and others. But a cut of the movie exists. There's apples in the bag, there's just not a watermelon in the bag. A ready-to-be-released, fully post-production completed version of the film doesn't exist. Zack Snyder himself said at one point last year, Warner Brothers would have to finish it. But he's got his cut. It's there. He has many cuts. He said that himself. No one's ever been in dispute. This picture that he put out doesn't change anything. Doesn't change anything at all. He has a cut of the movie, but it's not ready to be released, fully post-production completed. That's all I've ever been saying. That's all everybody's been saying. And this new picture doesn't change that. It doesn't change it at all. He's got a cut that you could probably go to his house, sit down and watch in his living room. But a fully post-production completed, ready to be released version, Warner Brothers has asserted that doesn't exist. That's not there yet. It would take millions of dollars for them to finish it. So no. Does a Snyder Cut exist here? Yes. But does this actual ready to be released version of Snyder Cut exist? No, it doesn't. Just doesn't. And by the way, Zack Snyder has never claimed that it does. Go back and look over everything Zack Snyder has ever said. He has never claimed that a fully post-production, finished and completed, ready to be released version of his Snyder Cut exists. He's never claimed that it does. He's never has. Go ahead. Go look. Go look. Has he ever claimed that that exists? He never has. So we're just right back to where we were before. It doesn't change anything. All right. Actor friend 90 writes, maybe Aladdin needs a new agent. Yeah, I would say so, actor friend. I mean, when you are the title star of a $1 billion film that was beloved and you can't even get auditions, might be time for Mena Massoud to go and get himself a new agent. You ain't wrong there. Samuel Shin writes, sends in a really large super chat. Thank you for that, Samuel, and supporting the channel on that level. Seems like Warner Brothers will acknowledge the DCEU. So when do you think they'll announce the recasting of Batman, Superman, and Joker? At some point, they got to show up. San Diego Comic-Con perhaps, still not over Affleck and Cavill, in my opinion. No, they don't have to. That's the thing. I'm not saying whether they will or won't, Samuel, but Warner Brothers does not have to announce a new Batman. A Batman in the DCEU while Matt Reeves' Batman is going on. I don't think Matt Reeves would like that very much. If you had a different Batman running around at the same time, they could. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we can just assume they're just going to add in a new Batman into the DCEU. I don't see anything suggesting that they need to do that whatsoever. Right now, they did an Aquaman movie without having to acknowledge anything about Batman or anything in the DCEU. We have a Wonder Woman movie that's clearly going to be its own standalone movie again. We got Black Adam coming. I mean, I don't think we should assume at any point that they're going to announce the recasting of Batman. Superman maybe at some point. But whether it's a Superman that's in the DCEU or whether it's a Superman that's going to be like Matt Reeves' new Batman, who knows? But at some point, that's got to happen. And by the way, who says they need to have a Joker? They don't. They don't need to have a Joker. There's a lot of other characters. They've been doing stuff with Batman and Superman and Joker, and they didn't have a lot of success. I thought they did great, but they don't think they did great, so whatever. So I don't know that we can be at this point, and I'm with you, man. I'm not over the Affleck and Cavill thing either. I'm not over it. I need to get there, and I'm slowly but surely getting there, but if I'm going to be honest, right now I'm still not even over that. But we'll see. I just don't think we can assume that that's what they're going to do, because I think there's some evidence that suggests they may be going in a different direction. Again, I'm not ready to say that I think they're going to do A or B. I'm still not really clear on what they're going to do, but I just don't think there's any clear evidence that they're going to go one way or the other yet. So we'll see, Samuel. But again, man, I'm with you on this not being over Cavill and Affleck's thing, because both of them are my favorites ever in those roles. Ben Affleck was my favorite Batman. Henry Cavill was my favorite Superman. So I'm still not over that myself either. Anyway, thanks for sending that in, dude. All right, Big Coop 76 writes, favorite Van Damme movie? Mine is has to be Bloodsport. Saw it in theater 10 times in 1998. It's got to be Bloodsport. You will be next. It is one of the great stupid movies of all time. God, I love Bloodsport. Kumite, Kumite. And by the way, a future Academy Award winner, Forrest Whitaker. A lot of people forget that Forrest Whitaker was in that of course, winning his Oscar. But I love Bloodsport. Let's see. Brennan Barr writes, do we really need a sneak peek for The Rise of Skywalker during Mandalorian when the film comes out the next day? At that point, since it's that close, I'd want to know as little as possible. I've waited this long as it is. Here's the thing, Brennan. A lot of people in our circles, and we got to remember, our circles are very small. A lot of people in our circles that talk online every day about movies and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, there's a number of us in there who goes, I don't want to see anymore. The vast majority of the average movie-going audience do like seeing that stuff. And yeah, one last push the day before the movie comes out to get all those people maybe a little bit sitting on the fence, like, yeah, maybe I'll go see that Star Wars movie, Mandalorian, boom, big new preview, hits online, all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'll go buy my ticket. See, because while you and I are clearly already going, they can't design their marketing campaigns just to reflect you and me. I'm already going, don't show any more trailers. Well, guess what? There's a huge ocean of potential audiences out there that have not decided to go see it, and we need to make marketing that entices them to come. Right? So yes, they need to do it. I mean, they don't 100% have to, but it's a good idea. It's a very, very good idea because the marketing is not catered to people like you and I who are already going to see it. They need to cater their marketing to the people to convince them to come and see it. And this could be a really good thing for them to do. So I think it's the right thing to do. And by the way, Brendan, I mean, you and I, if we don't want to see it, we don't have to watch it, right? That's simple. If you don't want to see the special sneak preview, and if I don't want to see the special sneak preview, by the way, I would have already seen the movie. By the time this Mandalorian episode comes out, I will have already watched. Actually, I would have already seen the movie twice. By the time this, so it's not a thing, so it doesn't apply to me. But if you don't want to see it, then just don't watch it. When they start the sneak preview, mute it. Or whatever. But they do need to appeal to the wider audience, and that's what they're doing here. Marie Seifring writes, if it is okay with the family, it would be nice to hear a little update about how Holly and the rest of Schnepp's family is doing. Thanks. That's up to them to do. It is nobody's place to give anybody any update on somebody else's family. So I completely appreciate the sentiment, Marie. I completely appreciate that. It is nobody's place, I believe, to speak to issues like that other than them themselves. You know what I mean? So, obviously your sentiments and why you're asking is beautiful. So yes, but I would feel that it is nobody's place to make any commentary on something like that other than the principals themselves. So, but beautiful fact that you asked the question, but I believe it is not anybody's place to answer that other than them themselves, obviously. All right. Joe Tamilio writes, he sends in a very large super chat. Thank you for that, Joe, and supporting the channel on that level, dude. Joe writes, John, I held my cat Rello Dallas in my arms today as she, dude, you have been there for me for the past 10 years of my life. There were days I didn't want to go on. You helped me through them for Lilo and in thanks to you. Well, dude, that's horrible. Anne and I, we have 2 dogs. And people who aren't pet owners don't get it. And that's fine. They're just dogs. It's just a cat, whatever. But Lily and Shadow have been a part of our lives for a decade. And they're both still super healthy and super active and all that kind of stuff. But, they're both getting older. They're getting white in the face and stuff like that. And I remember Anne and I were driving the other day, and we're talking about the dogs a little bit, and Anne brought up, I don't know what I'm going to do when we don't have one of them anymore. Just thinking about it broke my heart. Honestly, just thinking about it devastated me. So honestly, dude, with all sincerity, my deepest concern, because seriously, you lose a pet, and a pet is just there and is such an integral and real part of your life. And to lose that is heartbreaking because you love these little guys. And seriously, really, my deepest condolences. My buddy Dennis Zen, he had, and I don't like cats myself, but he had this pet cat that I didn't like. I didn't like Dennis's pet cat, I'll be honest. But Dennis had that cat a long time, and he was very attached to that cat. Matter of fact, I've never seen Dennis attached to anything like the way Dennis was attached to that cat. He loved that cat. And I remember his cat passed away a couple of years ago, and it was really hard for him. It was really hard. And so my condolences to you, Joe, seriously. And you know what? If you love the experience of having a pet, it may feel a little weird to think about it right now, but look forward to getting another pet and get to experience that again. So anyway, there you go, Joe, and condolences. And thank you for writing that in, man. All right. Wicked Man writes, hey, John, my question is, what Oscar-winning performance is better? Casey Affleck in Manchester by the Sea, or Frances McDormand in 3 Billboard? Ooh, it's neat that you picked that one. That's a good question, because listen, both of those performances were crazy nutty good. Crazy nutty good. One of them has a little bit of controversy attached to them, obviously, because of the Casey Affleck thing. That's tough. You know what? If you ask me this again in 2 weeks, I might give a totally different answer. I'm going to lean towards Casey Affleck's in Manchester by the Sea. That was a performance of a career for him. But Francis's in 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri was so stupid powerful. But for now, I will slightly lean towards the Casey Affleck one, but it's close, man. It's close. That's a Sophie's choice right there. Those are two good ones to pair up with each other, Wicked Man. All right. Ben Rayner writes, Weekly Hero today? No. And I'm going to have an announcement about Weekly Hero a little bit later, probably tomorrow. I'm going to be making a little announcement about Weekly Hero. But no, there is no Weekly Hero today. We simply don't have time for it. I just don't have any time to do it. So no Weekly Hero today, but thank you for reminding me, Ben, because I meant to announce that at the beginning of the show. So thank you for bringing that up. Anyway, an announcement about Weekly Hero is forthcoming. Anyway, Paul Nolan writes, Midge Maisel season 3 starts Friday. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I'm telling you what, dude, very few shows have snuck up on me and made an impact on me like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That show is so well written, so well performed, so funny, so engaging. It's ridiculously good. And listen, I know there's a lot of you guys who've never watched it because it just doesn't look like a show that's for you. I understand, because that's why I didn't watch it at first either. And then Anne came to me one day and is like, you have to watch this show with me. I'm like, all right. And I just taken with it. Epic Berserker writes, hey, John, I watched Noelle the other night, and that movie sucked. How in the world was this originally a theatrical film? Listen, that movie is so bad. And I love Anna Kendrick. And I'm becoming a Billy Eichner fan. And I love Bill Hader. But, oh my God, that movie is so bad. And it was so bad that it made me go, remember I said on the show, it's like, hey, Disney Plus, if this is an example of what your original movies are going to be, just don't do them. Stick to your television stuff, because your Jeff Goldblum thing is great. Mandalorian's awesome. Just stick to that, because if Noelle is any indication about what your original movies are going to be, I'll take a pass, because they're terrible. Now, I haven't watched The Lady and the Tramp one yet. I heard some people say they liked it. I heard some people say they didn't. But yeah, man, that Epic Berserker, dude, that Noelle movie was a rough one to come out of the gate with. That's a terrible, terrible movie. Ewan Fitzhugh writes, Top 10, Winter Soldier, that awkward moment. You know what? I didn't mind that awkward moment either, as a matter of fact. Spider-Man 3, Remember Me, Phone Booth, Click. Now there's an Adam Sandler one that I'm not a big fan of Click, to be honest with you, but it had a lot of potential. Anyway, Dark of the Moon, Steve Jobs, Gone Girl, love Gone Girl, Adventureland, thanks, man. And again, you know what's funny? I love your list, Ewan, because I disagree with a lot of them. And that's one of the reasons why I love your list. I mean, I agree with Gone Girl is fantastic. Winter Soldier's fantastic. I actually got a little bit of an appreciation for Awkward Moment. But a number of films on here, like Click, Adventureland, some other things that I'm not a big fan of, but I love that because it just exhibits that as film fans, we have such wildly different ways that different movies impact us and affect us. And I love the fact that you got a list that looks really radically different than mine. So good on you, man. And thank you for sharing your list with us. All right. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, and we're just about ready to wrap up here, guys. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, I'm back. I'm home. All this time, it was you. You finally really did it, you maniacs. You blew it up, and damn you all to hell. Going back to some Planet of the Apes. That is the Charlton Heston speech at the end of Planet of the Apes, right? It's in the sand. Oh, God, what a moment. One of the most iconic moments in film history, dude. One of the most iconic moments. Now, I wonder if the new Planet of the Apes that they're talking about is going to be going fast forwarding in time to that era. Possibly. Maybe. We'll have to wait and find out. All right. And Josh Bing, this is the final question of the day. Crisis starts Sunday, and if they'll kill Oliver and Barry, I'll be surprised. But I'd applaud the CW for taking such a risky move. I'm ready. Also, I have to admit, as time's gone on, I've become more appreciative of Last Jedi for what it is and what Ryan did. Well, listen, listen, it's my least favorite of all the new era of Star Wars films, but I liked it. I actually, there's some things about it I really like. While a lot of people complain about the Luke stuff, I actually love the Luke stuff. I think what they did with Luke was ballsy and consistent with what the real Luke character is. I just thought it was great. Some other things in the movie, not so much. But yes, Rian Johnson really, really did try to do something very, very different. And I applaud him for that. Look, we're always asking for directors to do something new and different. Then as soon as he does it, we all whine and complain. I mean, it's fine if you didn't like it, but don't whine and complain that he did something different if all we want him to do is to do something different. It's fine for him to do something different. Hey man, I appreciated that you I really appreciate you try to do something different. It didn't work for me though. I didn't like it. I thought it was terrible. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so we'll see what they go. I mean, Oliver, I don't think he's going to die. And I really don't think Barry's going to die, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll pull a fast one. No pun intended. Maybe they'll pull a fast one. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Listen, don't forget that a little bit later on, in the next coming weeks, we do have our little big 100 million view celebration. We hope that a number of you guys will plan to come on down and meet us if you're in or going to be around the LA area. So there's that as well. And don't forget, the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. Thank you to Robert Meyer Burnett for being here today. Tomorrow we got Aaron Cummings in studio, so that'll be good. And then again, Robert will be back on Friday. Actually, I'm going to see if Robert can come in tomorrow too, because Chris Carr is out of town. So I'm going to see if Robert can come in and fill in for her as well. And listen, very special thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel along the way as we did it. Guys, thanks so much for being here and making this a part of your day and making this being a part of the film fan community. We appreciate it very much. That'll do it for us for now, guys. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.